I can't hear anyone. Are we on? I'm not on mute.
No,
Now
you're not.
can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
It took the master controller to turn off the mute.
Was that Bill?
No, Matt Jacobs had to
Oh, hi, Matt.
turn everything off for us. So, hi, Julie. Everybody's got long sleeves on today. Jim.
I should have grabbed some coat before I left off.
I'm not changing sort of one for the day. Yeah. I kind of like the change. Hi, Forrest. Kind of a nice.
How are you? I'm good. How are you doing? It's a little cold. It's like it's gonna be that way. I went upstairs to the boardroom.
I was telling, I saw a news feed come through, but I didn't read it. But like Denver got.
They had snow at home in northern Nebraska.
Did they?
I think it's stuck. No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it turned from summer to fall, whatever we're gonna have.
Really fast.
Let's stay full for a long time.
Make sure when we need to, I think Jim needs to sign those too, Doug.
Yes, he does. Had to make sure I had the right line.
Okay. Is the, I don't know, that's a Matt question. Is the live stream only on YouTube?
Is it normally on
Or
YouTube at this point? It's not.
Laura probably start that when we get ready to start, right, Laura? Are you starting the live stream when we start, Laura?
The live stream is going to YouTube right now.
Okay.
It's really hard to hear you, Kim and Jim.
Okay.
I haven't said anything yet.
Honey, I saw your lips moving.
Oh, must be chewing on something.
Is it going now?
Let me ask. I just got a note that it wasn't on.
Okay. They're checking on the live stream, Laura.
I have it going on my phone, so I can, I know it's going. So if they're having a trouble, you need to refresh it.
Yep, they're getting it.
Oh, I got a message from Bill Young that says closer to the mic. So slide your microphones up, folks, I guess. And make sure the little green button is on.
Okay, well, we're ready to start, I guess, because we
Yeah.
have everybody
You
here.
want me to go ahead and read my little
Yeah,
statement?
if you don't mind.
Okay.
You, Kim.
I'll go ahead and read my Zoom meeting statement that gets altered just about every month because we do something different. So thank you again this month for your patience as we continue to work through our virtual public meetings together. The agenda of this meeting can be found on the college's website at https://www.butlercc.edu/meetings/meeting/60/board of trustees. Prior to the start of the meeting, Laura Jarvis, Executive Assistant to the President and Clerk to the Board of Trustees, who's joining us via Zoom, has worked to take roll for those who have attended this meeting in order to accurately reflect attendees in the official meeting minutes, and I'm helping her do that as well. Matt Jacobs, Director of BCTV, will be live streaming the meeting. They'll both be monitoring the meeting technology. Please make sure your microphones are muted when you're not speaking to prevent feedback and background noise. As we participate in a public meeting by telephone or other medium of interactive communication such as this, members of this board must take steps to help the public understand the proceedings despite not being physically present. We ask each speaker, whether it be a board member or administrator, to please identify themselves by name before speaking or voting so remote listeners or observers can more readily know who's speaking. Please also speak clearly into your microphones. Each motion will be clearly and slowly stated. For each motion, Laura will take a roll call vote of each member, and each vote tally will then be announced. It was requested through posted meeting materials that anyone wishing to address the board through public comment notify our office by noon today. There were no requests via email for public comment for the legal budget hearing or the regular board meeting, but I've handed out information cards to some present in the Clifford Stone Room who might wish to offer public comment. The meeting will begin with the legal budget hearing. Chair Howell will read the protocol for the public hearing, including the public comment portion of the legal budget hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, the regular board meeting will be called to order.
Okay, I declare the public hearing for the 2020 to 2021 legal budget of Butler County College now open. I'm Jim Howell, the chairman of the board of trustees. Seated with me around the table are Doug Law, Lance Lechtenberg, Forrest Rhodes, Shelby Smith, Julie Winslow. We also have Mary Martha Good appearing by Zoom. And we have our secretary, Laura Jarvis, appearing by Zoom, and President Kroll is present with us. There are other administration, faculty, and staff members that are present. Some of them are joining us by Zoom. At this time, we're meeting to hear public comments on the 2021 legal budget for Butler Community College. To briefly explain the budget process, several months ago, we began with individual recommendations from department heads, which were reviewed by our budget officers and our administration. In conjunction with parameters set by the Board of Trustees, the administration developed a preliminary budget that was presented to the Board of Trustees. Several updates were provided and discussed. In a special meeting held on July 28, 2020, the Board of Trustees voted to pass the notice of public hearing, setting the budget at $77,915,445. The local dollars to be levied are $14,420,075, which includes $12,928,138 for operations and $1,491,937 for capital outlay. The legal budget provides the college with the ability to increase its expenditure budget in order to address a significant unanticipated expense in a timely fashion. The public notice was published in the college's official publications, and the public hearing was set for 4:30 today, September 8th, 2020, in the Clifford Stone Room for the Hubbard Welcome Center at Butler of El Dorado. At this time, I will open the hearing to any public comment from individuals who are present in the room or via Zoom and who would like to speak concerning the budget. As there are several who wish to speak, we ask that you hold your comments to 5 minutes or less. For those of you speaking via Zoom, Laura Jarvis will manage the technology and admit you into the board's Zoom room to speak. For those in the Clifford Stone room, please submit your public comment request cards to the board chair. Will then you'll then be asked to speak. For all who are offering public comment in either format, please announce your name and address before beginning your comments. Board Secretary Laura Jarvis will identify when you have 1 minute remaining, so you are able to conclude your comments within the time allotted. The board will not participate in any discussion or take any action during the public comment portion of the meeting. And do you want to go first with people that are here and present?
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody by Zoom.
Okay, Rod Blackburn, please come forward.
You have a copy of Rod's comments at your place as well.
And Rod's address is 2505 Hazlitt in El Dorado.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Howe.
Can we hear you? Can you hear Rod when he talks, everybody? Okay.
I've provided you a copy of my comments that I'd like to address today, but I may be off script, and I'll start immediately off script. For about the past over 30 years, I've kind of had a tendency to try to influence the delivery of trade skills training in our area, and also in Texas when I was down there during that period of time. I found over the years that I was in construction, which started in the early 70s, that trade skills have been falling off as far as training, like clockwork as we get older, and the quality and the number of craftsmen available in the trade skills industry is declining steadily, and most certainly now that a lot of us baby boomers are going. So when I have a chance to speak to that, I try to. And the community colleges, as I gave you a letter on June 1st or June 5th, transmitted to the board via email, I transmitted my feelings that the community colleges are one of the most effective ways to deliver career and technical education that there are. I serve on the board of the Workforce Alliance of South Central Kansas. I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking as myself. But for 20 years, I've served on that board, and the community colleges has shown me that they are the most responsive way to deliver career and technical education. You guys and other community colleges like you are able to respond to your community's needs and reskill and retrain those employees that need upskilled, reskilled, or just people coming into the market. It's very, very important. We've needed you for years. We'll need you in the future, and most certainly we need you right now because we have a lot of retooling that's going to happen in skills development very quickly in the upcoming future. And I want to make note, I made a very strong case about you being a community college versus a junior college. In other words, a stepping stone to a higher university. A community college really is able to impact the return on investment to their community. But the community is just a part of a region. A region is a bigger economy, and we as communities impact those regional economies and vice versa. You know, who here has had something done at their house that only involves somebody from their city? Very few of us. And if they did, I'll guarantee you the materials came from another county. And that other county, most likely that person had to have a forklift certificate that loaded the materials or drove the truck over here. So when you look at an isolated community such as Butler, we're not an island. We are part of the regional economy, and it is so important that this college, the Hutchinson Community College, Wichita Tech, the Cali Community College, all keeps us in perspective that they have an impact on the large economy of this, not only the South Central region, but also the state. So I would just like to remind you, when you look at your budgets, you remember the great return on investment that you have in your CTE programs and how quickly they can pay back into your community. So thank you so much for my time.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else in the galley here that wishes to be heard? Seeing no one, do we have anybody on Zoom? Laura indicates no. Well, that would conclude our legal budget hearings. So I'm going to adjourn and move into the regular meeting of the Butler Community College Board of Trustees for September 8th, 2020. First item is the approval of the agenda. I understand that we may need to interrupt the flow as it's stated in the written agenda because we have some people that can only attend at around the 5:30 time period. I don't see that as being any kind of a problem, but I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And everyone, I thank you for your patience in the time that we need to interrupt that. So the first item is to basically approve the agenda as stated with that proviso. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda as otherwise written? Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, Laura needs to do a roll call vote. So
who made the motion?
Doug
Doug.
did, and
Okay.
Lance was the first one to second it.
Okay, okay. So then trustee Good, yay or nay?
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yay.
trustee Rhodes,
Yay.
trustee Winslow,
Yay.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yay.
trustee Smith.
Yay.
So it passes unanimously.
Okay, the agenda is now approved. So first item is the approval of the 2021 legal budget. I think we may have done in the past, but technicalities require that we do it again. Do I have a motion to approve the 2021 legal budget.
I would move the legal budget for 2021 be approved as published with the amount of taxes to be levied for all funds of $14,420,075. Total expenditure budget for all funds of $77,915,445.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I guess we're going to do a roll call on that. Laura, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Who was
Jen,
this?
I'm sorry. What was that motion? Forrest, it was real hard to hear you.
Go, you want to repeat it?
I'm sorry, I can repeat it.
Sure.
It's move the legal budget for 2021 be approved as published with the amount of taxes to be levied for all funds of $14,420,075. Total expenditure budget for all funds of $77,915,445.
Is that what we had discussed before?
It's what's in your board book, Mary Martha, on page 5. Yes.
But this is what we had discussed before.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And we
I
have a
second.
and we'll go ahead just in case there's any further discussion that needs to be had, although we've already discussed it in the past. I'll open the floor up for discussion.
I'd like to be recognized, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I would like to have a full detailed budget placed online, not just the summary pages as usual, but the entire detailed budget placed online so that we are.
Julie, I can't hear you.
Sorry.
How about this?
There, great, that's good.
I would like a copy of the full budget placed online, not just the summary pages that are usually posted, but I guess in light of transparency and trying to be more transparent to the public, I'd just like all pages posted.
Any problem with that, Kim?
I'll talk to Kent.
Okay.
Kent's the one that,
That's no problem. We do post the legal budget every year, so I'll send you a link so that you'll know where it is once it gets posted. Should be done in the next couple days.
The public access?
Yes,
It's on
yes.
the-
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, now we'll call for a vote.
Okay. Trustee Good,
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously.
Okay, then let's move on to recognitions.
we don't have any employee or student recognitions this month, but we do want to say happy birthday to Trustee Winslow. I think your birthday was yesterday.
He does not have birthdays.
Do you want us to sing to you?
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, please, turn that mic down. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we hope you had a good day.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Okay, that's the only recognitions we have. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Does anyone wish to be heard? Anybody in Zoom? Laura? Nope. Okay, well, then we'll move on to the standing report. Student Government Association. We have somebody for that.
Yep, we got Kirsten.
Kirsten. Go right ahead whenever you're ready. Can she hear us?
She's muted. Laura probably has to unmute her.
Yeah.
Or does she have?
Kristen, can you unmute? Let me see.
Are you guys talking to me?
There you go.
Okay, sorry. All right. So since last time we've talked, we've had a few things. August 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. we had our annual Paint Wars event at the field beside the sand volleyball pit. There we had a paint and water balloon fight. And we also tie-dyed shirts and masks. And we also had music and snacks and stuff like that. And we had a pretty good turnout. September 2nd, last Wednesday, we had our first SGA meeting here in El Dorado at 4:30. We had a handful of students and our residence life director, Dave, he was there. And last Friday was National College Colors Day. So for that, we set up a table in the student union from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we held a raffle for a free $15 gift card, and we had 4 different ones for students who were wearing their Butler gear. And we also got to hang out with Butler alumni Dana Johnson. She was there and had a table for voter registration. And she was encouraging students to register to vote. So we also included the students that registered to vote in our raffle. And then after our 3-day weekend, this week is National Suicide Prevention Week. So we have been talking with Counselor Nancy Ham to kind of plan some things. We're still trying to get some things figured out. We're hoping to hand out some informational pamphlets about it, and then hopefully show a documentary in the library one night for students to go and watch. We're not sure what day yet, but she's checking on that. And then future events for September, our next meeting is in Andover on the 16th at 4 p.m. And then we will be celebrating Constitution Day on the 17th.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Operational staff report, Lisa, I believe.
Good afternoon. Our scholarship committee has selected the book scholarship recipients for this academic year. Funded by operational staff fundraisers throughout the year, the book scholarship helps covers the cost of books and enables students to continue towards their educational goals. We typically award $300 scholarships to 2 qualified candidates each year. To be eligible, applicants must be a member of operational staff or be an immediate family member. This year, we were able to award 2 students with $300 each and an additional 2 students with $200 each. We wish all of the applicants much success with their college efforts. Our next operational staff meeting is scheduled for this Thursday, September 10th. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Professional employees report. Terry with us? There he is.
I really don't have anything new to report, but I, as always, feel compelled to remind the board of the amazing efforts that your professional employees are putting in as they deal with ever increasing challenges due to the pandemic. Not only more and more COVID cases that affect the classroom, but also having to engage multiple modalities for classes and even individual students. I'm always amazed by the people that I work with and the things that they do to make sure that we deliver a quality education for our students. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Terry. Looks like we didn't have a finance committee today. Is there anything to report otherwise? Okay. KACCT report. Mary Martha?
Well, good evening, everyone. It was a joy to meet with KACCT on a Saturday morning at 8:00 a.m. All the colleges were represented. We went over a bill that has been approved by the Attorney General and also the Secretary of State, and will probably make a landing in the House or the Senate in January, but it's for a tracer at colleges and universities to trace groups of the COVID-19 or who has been exposed. They also announced the federal funds that were awarded, but remember that half of those funds go to the students. On October the 5th through the 8th is the National K8 or the ACCT College Convention. It will be virtual. And I'm going to send you all out the flyer. So in case you want to attend, it is rather costly, but if we all attend as a group somewhere, or even in our homes as Zoom, it would be cost efficient. Let's see, what else would you all like to know? It went very well. Heather does a super job. We talked about their marketing campaign and how many high school students had reached out to the community colleges to see what they offered. There was an increase in males, which was interesting to see what different colleges offered. And they had it disseminated by groups, race, and interest, but it was very interesting. I think that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
I thank you for attending and for the report. Much appreciated, Mary Martha.
Thank you, Trustee Jim.
Mary Martha, you didn't get my message till after the meeting, did you?
Correct. That said what, Julie?
That I was moving that day?
Let's see. Yes, and Julie, I did respond, but yeah, you did.
Okay. Just want to make sure you eventually got it.
Yes, I understood that you would not be attending.
Okay.
Yes. It was rather early, I'll have to admit. I just put on a nice top, did my hair, and kept my pajama bottoms on.
That's too much information. But
That
okay.
works. Okay. Well, again, thank you, Mary Martha.
You're welcome.
Forrest or Ken?
Yeah, the foundation board met their quarterly meeting in August. I guess on a positive note, given everything that happened in the fourth quarter with not being able to fundraise, the foundation was still able to raise the same amount of funds, roughly the same amount of funds in 2020 that were raised in 2019, with one less quarter to do anything with. About roughly 14.5 million, excuse me, 1.45 million. Got to get that decimal point in the right place. Rough breakdown, about 295,000 from businesses, 236,000 from foundations and trusts, a little bit from government, 743,000 from individuals, and about 12,000 from civic groups. So foundation completed their accounting audit with Regier, Carr and Monroe, and that report will be presented to the board in November. An annual process of recruiting new board members is occurring to replace those that are coming off, and we've got 5 new candidates from Rose Hill, Andover, and Wichita, and those names will be announced at the November meeting. And then last thing, all of the events in the fall, the foundation events, including the scholarship luncheon and the president's dinner, have been canceled because of the continuing COVID issues. Board's going to wait until November to make a decision on the auction in March of next year. So hopefully that's not affected, but at this point, who knows?
Yeah.
So that's all I have. Happy to entertain questions if anybody has any.
Okay. Well, thank you, Forrest. President's report.
A couple of different things. We started our 5th week of classes this week. Doors are still open, and we're happy about that. We track, critical incident management teams still meeting twice a week. This week, we updated our website. We have of active cases, we have 1 employee with an active COVID case, and we have 9 students, but nobody that's interconnected in any way, and that represents both folks that would be potentially on campus or remote. So that doesn't mean that they're all of those students are living in the dorm or anything like that. But so we keep track of that every week. I think we've had, since the very end of July, first part of August, we've had a total of 37 cases that would be Butler employees or students. So our numbers are still really relatively low compared to a lot of folks. Reported this morning, I think that we just have 1 young man and 1 young lady in quarantine right now that are in isolation, one or the other, quarantine, I guess. So protocols are being followed pretty carefully and closely. We're really appreciative of that. We think that that's making a difference. But, all it takes is 1 or 2 people that, are exposed or positive and don't report things the right way, that it can turn around in a pretty big hurry. Mary Martha reported on the ACCT Leadership Congress that happens October 5th through the 8th. I sent out information to you all. If you're interested in going or participating, they do have group discounts. For 1 person, it's $349 a piece. I think if 1 to 4 of us go together, then there's a little bit higher cost. I think it was about $1,200 for 4, up to 4. And then I think it goes up to $1,700 or something, maybe for more than that. The key to this, though, is that after the 14th of September, there are no refunds in that commitment. So if we register, then we're committed to whatever we spend. And I think in my email, I said to you, you know, really the goal is to try and have people really be able to participate and get the most out of it that they can. And because those sessions are during the day, I know that's complicated. But, you know, if you're interested, let me know. And we can still, between Laura and I, we can still get some registration in this week. Wanted to also let you know that our Project Search interns started this week. If you're not familiar with Project Search, it's a resource to help disabled individuals find employment. So it's really a partnership between Butler County Special Education Interlocal and the college and some businesses within the community. And they represent, this Project Search is one of about 280, I think, across the nation. And this is the 7th year, I think, 7th or 8th year that we've had Project Search students at Butler. They meet downstairs. They have a classroom down there, and they represent all of the different school districts, you know, in the Butler County Special Education Interlocal area. And so those students complete their internship their last year of high school. They're essentially done with high school, but they don't get their high school diplomas until they finish up Project Search, and they do their internships and they have their work experiences and things like that. So when they finish Project Search and they graduate at the end of the year, then they get their high school diplomas. It's really a pretty special opportunity for them. But they learn employment skills and receive job training and have the opportunity to intern at 3 different locations. And so on our campus, lots of them will intern with the Championship Training Center in the athletic department and help in there. They'll help with Great Western Dining. They've helped in HR before. They'll help with grounds and facilities and work with the grounds crews. Susan B. Allen is a great partner. And at Susan B. Allen, they'll work in environmental services and HR and material management. They've been at Circle High School before in food service, so a variety of different things. But it's really a great opportunity. The students were here, the interns were here for the first time this morning when I came to work, and they're pretty shy to start off with, and you know, not really very sure of themselves. But it doesn't take them too long to feel like they're part of campus and part of the group that hangs around, and so it's exciting to have them back on campus, and it'll be fun to watch their confidence grow and their job skills grow. Wanted to let you know that both of the food pantries are open on both campuses. We have a food pantry here in El Dorado, and we have one in Andover as well, that are open for students or staff, whoever needs some assistance. And like on spring break and Christmas break and those kinds of things, we always try to make sure that they're well stocked as well, so that students can access food pantry before things, you know, kind of shut down and they don't have as much access to places open on campus. Last thing, just enrollment update as of today. Our numbers are not solidified yet. We have to submit our report to the Board of Regents, submit the 20th day numbers. We have 7,247 in head count. That's 121.8% of our goal. So we went over our head count goal. We're still below our credit hour goal. We'd set a credit hour goal of just over 81,000 credit hours, and we're at about 69,000 credit hours now. Still enrolling 8-week classes, I think, and high school students still too. So usually this time of year, you start to hear things about enrollment and where people are, and it's crickets across the state. And so I think a lot of people are probably seeing, you know, decreases or significant changes in their enrollments and stuff. So it'll be interesting. The 20-day numbers will come out. Those aren't the final numbers. We always finalize numbers later on in the semester, but that's the first kind of look into enrollment. So we'll see where we are in a few days with the system. I'd answer questions if you have them. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Education Facilities Authority report, nothing to report there unless you know something behind the scenes. I think anything's going on.
Don't know anything behind the scenes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is monitoring report for the athletics division.
We have Tyler Nordman with us tonight, our Assistant Athletic Director.
Excuse me. Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. It's about a year ago I stood up here and did this, and I was only a few weeks on the job, so a little more comfortable here in front of the board and in this setting. For those of you I don't know, a little bit of background about me. My name is Tyler Nordman, originally from Augusta, Kansas. I started at Butler last year, August 19th. We had our first child August 21st. We had our first home football game that following Saturday, the 24th or something. So that first fall semester, I kind of blacked out through the whole thing, but it's been really good. It's been a blast to be a part of the Butler family, and I'm happy to be starting year 2 with the Grizzlies. So you guys got a copy of the report. I'll point out some of the highlights out of that report. Some of the highlights off the field or off the court and track. 5 of our 13 teams earned all academic team by the NJCAA. What that means is they earned a 3.0 or higher GPA as a team for the fall and spring semester. It's really impressive, and we're very proud of our teams for that, especially in the spring semester that we had in March when everybody got sent home to all across the country and really all across the world for some of our students. So for them to continue to excel and succeed in the classroom really says a lot about the students we're bringing in, and specifically our student athletes. Our volleyball team had another great year. They finished 18th in the country out of 352 teams that compete in the sport of volleyball with a 3.59 total GPA. They were the highest on campus in our Grizzly teams. They had 8 academic all academic students on the volleyball team. The baseball team was a 3.39, soccer 3.34, women's basketball 3.27, and softball rounds out the all academic teams at a 3.18. We had 47 total student athletes earn NJCAA all academic honors. What that means is they had a 3.6 or higher. First team is a 4.0. We had 19 students earn 4.0 GPAs. 15 were a 3.8 to a 3.99 GPA, and 13 of our student athletes earned a 3.6 to a 3.8. So very proud of all those student athletes who continue to work hard even with all the challenges and adversity that was thrown at them this spring. On the field, we had 15 All-Americans. And remember, we didn't get a vote on baseball, softball, or outdoor track and field because those seasons were canceled. So I really anticipated that number to be higher than that. We also had 83 all-conference student athletes during the year. So, and again, no baseball, softball, or track awardees on that. So very good numbers off the field as well as on the field and court. Some new faces you're going to be seeing around this year, some of our new staff, new coaches. We don't have any new head coaches. And one thing I'll touch on before introducing all the new staff is this really stood out to me last year and even more so this year when I'm putting this together, is the longevity of some of our coaches and staff within the Butler Athletic Department. We have 10 coaches that have been here 10 plus years. Coach Steve Brad, he's an assistant football coach for us. I'd like to think you've heard of him. He's starting his 41st year at Butler. TC, our athletic director, 34 years. Lori at 15. Coach Schaffner, 16 years. BJ McVeigh, baseball, and Doug Chance, softball. They're both at 17 years. I mean, the longevity of our staff really says a lot to what Butler does for them, what it means to them, and they're happy here. So that's really cool. And that was one thing that really stood out to me when I was pulling this together. On our football staff, we have 2 new additions with some of the guys leaving for other jobs. Sean Wilkerson, he was at Southwestern Oklahoma State University most recently. He'll work with our linebackers. Clayton Woods got here in January, so he's been around a little while. You've probably seen or met Clayton already. He just graduated from OU in December and joined us. He's working with our tight ends and H-backs. We got 3 Grizzlies back for us. All 3 were former All-Americans. We'll start with women's basketball. Erica Mattingly. She's from Wichita. She finished up at UMKC. She was an All-American for us here at Butler, but then she just blew out the record books for the Roos in Kansas City. She was named alongside the Kansas City Chiefs. Unfortunately, it was virtually this year, but she was named KC Sportswoman of the Year. So awesome to have her back and helping out with our women's basketball team. Mackenzie Young, who just finished up at North Texas, and Morgan Bohannon, who has been out a year but graduated from Creighton. Again, both former All-Americans, both former softball national champions for us. They're back with the program and helping out Coach Chance this season. So really looking forward to having them. And I think it says a lot about the program, the school, the community, and the family we have here when you have alums eager and chomping at the bit to get back and coach alongside their head coaches when they were here. Our men's basketball staff, we hired a new assistant coach, Denon Morrow. He's from Wichita. Most recently, he was at Chipola College down in Florida. He played at Barton and coached at Barton as well, so he has some experience in the Jayhawk Conference. Our new addition to our baseball staff, an assistant coach, Taylor Sanagorski, also a Wichita native, played at Wichita State and Emporia State. Most recently was a Newman University baseball grad assistant. So Sanagorski, if you've heard the name Paul Sanagorski, a very famous name in the Wichita baseball coaching area. So really good to have Taylor joining our staff. And then Manny Gonzalez graduated from Southwestern College last year. He's assisting with our cross country and track programs. So those are some of the new staff members we have floating around this year, and really looking forward to having them on campus and getting to work with our students. Really, really good additions to the team. Kind of a 1920 year in review, just to kind of give you some of the highlights of what happened last year. So our football team won the Midwest Classic Bowl game down in Miami, Oklahoma for the second straight year. That is back-to-back bowl wins. The last time that happened was 07 and 08 were the national championship years. So really good job there by the football team. They had 10 wins. They finished 10-3. That was the first time since 2012 to post a 10-win season. They had 17 all-conference players, 9 of which were Kansas kids. We had 38 players transfer out either in December or in May to four-year universities from this year's class. So that's really impressive. We had 5 touchdowns scored this weekend on NCAA Division I football on ESPN from former Grizzlies. They just posted the K-State 2 deep, and we have 6 former Grizzlies on the K-State depth chart, which is really nice. So some really good highlights from our football team last year, and continuing to shine even on a national level and on TV. Our women's basketball team was back-to-back conference and Region 6 champions under Coach Mike Helmer, doing a great job. They obviously didn't get a chance to travel to the national tournament. It was funny because we were doing a send-off for them down at Willie's Wednesday night, and everybody's celebrating. We're looking forward to going down to Texas to try to win us a national championship, and that's when all the news came out about COVID, Big 12 canceling, and then that Thursday is when they really put the kibosh on everything. So felt really bad for the girls and the staff, but they definitely earned the right to be there, and we won't forget that. Our men's basketball team under the first-year head coach Kyle Fisher finished second in the conference, had a really great year. They lost with a buzzer beater in the region championship game out of Dodge City for a chance to go to the national tournament. But gosh, what a great season Coach Fisher put together with the team. And he got here in April, so kind of late. So he did a great job with them. And they had the most wins since the 14-15 season. So he did a really good job. Our indoor track team, we had national champions in the men's 4x400 meter relay. Cardette Bienvenu, Jared Elcock, Judah Taylor, and Ajarian Jackson were the members of that national championship team. Congratulations to them. We also had some runner-up finishes. Our women's 4x4 team, Jaira Smith, Caleb McDonald, Toshelle Goff, and Lanisha Thompson were the members on that team. And Shanique Masters was runner-up in the nation in the 600 meter. And 18 of our indoor track athletes earned All-American honors after that meet. So they didn't get to compete in outdoor, unfortunately, but I think we'd have some really good numbers and potentially some more national championships if they had the opportunity to run. Baseball, they were unable to defend their 2019 conference championship with the cancellation of the season, but they were off to a really hot start. I think one of the hottest in baseball history here. They were 15-4 on the season when everything got shut down for them. Same goes for softball. They've won 9 straight conference titles. We'll just kind of skip this year and go for a 10th next year. They've also had 4 straight trips to nationals. That we weren't able to do that again this year, but we'll shoot for it next year for sure. They were 13-7 on the year when the season got canceled. Those are some of the highlights of some of our sports teams, kind of what they did throughout the year. So what are we doing? I get asked this question a lot, family, friends. Hey, you got no sports going on, right? I'm like, well, not necessarily, no. We're still doing the same thing. We have all of our students here. We're educating and we're developing them. That's what we do. Yes, the seasons have been moved around. Yes, it looks very different. Yes, the amount of games aren't going to be the same, but we're still doing our thing to continue to educate and develop the students we bring to Butler as part of our teams and part of our family here. It looks different. but we're adapting, as Dr. Kroll alluded to. We're following protocols. We're doing a really good job in comparison to some of our colleagues across the conference. With the amount of cases we've seen, we've really slow played this thing. Our message going in, TC and I's message was, we're not going to win a national championship in August. We're not going to win one in September, October, November, December, but we could lose one. So let's not rush into this thing and take any chances of costing us our entire year by working out too quick or getting the teams together or practicing too much this early when there's no chance of winning anything this fall. So we do have our cross country team competing, and we're hosting the Ollie Isom Invitational this Friday. We do it over behind the stadium at the disc golf course. So weather permitting, it may be muddy, but it should be good. It should be 70 degrees to run in September. You'll take that. So we do have our cross country students competing still just like normal. Other than that, everybody's been pushed back to the spring, and things seem to change on a daily and weekly basis, but we continue to adapt. Our coaches and student athletes have done an amazing job taking care of the business and following the protocols we've put in place to stay safe and continue to do the things they love, and that's play sport, and we want to keep them here. We want to keep them in class, and we want to keep them at Butler. So we're going to do what it takes to make that happen. So that's my report, and I'll open up for any questions. Awesome. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, Tyler.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. Okay, moving on to sabbatical reports. Who we going to have go first?
I think Andrea is
Andrea's
first, and
gonna
I
go
think we can get her in, and then we may need to do the construction.
Okay.
Right.
And she's zoomed in there. We see her.
I am. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I'm Andrea McCaffrey Wallace. I'm Associate Professor of English, and I will be brief, which is not something I am known for. So you're all special visitors can come in. My sabbatical was last fall, which honestly seems like a decade ago. But I worked specifically in professional development. I'm working on my doctorate in education through the University of Florida. And in those classes, I've learned a lot about professional development, and also a system for teachers conducting their own research in their classrooms. And so during my sabbatical, I brought a lot of what I've learned in my doctorate to our professional development. The first thing I'll say, though, is that in my program, I have been so just proud of how great our professional development is when I'm discussing it with my colleagues and professors, and how very impressed people are at some of the stuff we have done at Butler, even before I did this project. So what you guys will see in the book, my rubric that I developed in conjunction with Mark Jarvis, and we workshopped it around to some other people as well. So it's a research-based rubric for assessing our professional development workshops at PDD week during IDD, and also at Second Saturdays. We were really excited to make it not only based on research, but also to be citing the research on the rubric, so that while people are filling it out, they can see what these ideas are based on. We have been using this rubric. We implemented it in the spring. And so our old rubric was more just kind of a fill in the blank about what was good and what could have been better. And so I think this tool is going to give us a better way to measure where we are improving and where we need to improve with training the people that implement our professional development. And then I just also want to speak about how what I did with our summer jam practicum with Mark and our practicum participants in the fall. I went through that practicum with them and implemented inquiry, practitioner inquiry during that. So I helped Mark set it up almost like a class where we were doing readings, and then instructors find a problem of practice in their own classrooms. So for one math instructor, that was, how do I get students to come on Fridays? And for we had an online instructor that was looking at, how do I increase my students asking me questions and participation in my class and things like that. And I think that's the really neat thing about inquiry, is that teachers can ask themselves, what isn't working as well in my classroom, or what do I want to have work better? And then they can define that problem and then do research to see
how they could become better in that area. So we went through that, we identified our problems, we all did research, and then we found solutions and we implemented those solutions, and then also collected data on how much, you know, how much of an impact we were able to have on those problems. And so you know, the idea of doing it last fall is that then we figured out the structure of doing it in a semester. And so once professional development is kind of back to normal, which will hopefully be soon, we will be able to have people go through that cycle during summer jam practicum and really identify an issue they want to work on in their classrooms, implement a solution, and then measure how well that solution works, which I think, you know, that's really just the gold standard for professional development for teachers, that we're, you know, it's catered to our classrooms. We are being the experts and we are really trying to become better teachers and then measure those results. So I think it was a big success last fall. In my sabbatical report, I gave you a list of, you know, a lot of what some different teachers did during that. And it was a really neat thing to watch instructors implement solutions in their classrooms and really take ownership of that teaching. And so that's something that I look forward to really continuing at Butler. This isn't something that's happening at a lot of community colleges. Inquiry happens at the university level and it happens in K through 12. There's a lot of academic publications where teachers can submit their work. And so, you know, our hope is that, you know, as we get this going at Butler, then more faculty can kind of publish about what they're doing in their classrooms. And we can really shine a light on Butler and a lot of the great teaching that we do here, and just how really awesome, you know, our faculty are, and just how, I don't know, how we really, you know, try to be so much better in the classroom. Anyway, I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks for your report. It was
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make Kathy mad. My apologies, Kathy, to kind of hold you up on your sabbatical report, but we've got to move to a board action item on construction technology program, and then we will get right back to you. So.
Doesn't look like it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrea. Kathy, we're going to put you on hold just a little bit, okay? Thank you.
So we'll do the first board action item, which is the construction technology program. Introduction for that?
Yep, you have in your board. What's that?
Are we changing the agenda order? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
like
Bill
I announced at the very beginning.
Jim announced it at the very beginning of the meeting that we might have to change the order just because we've got folks here to speak on the construction technology program. So thanks. Yeah. Last March, in front of the board, we brought you the construction technology program for approval so it could go on to be reviewed by the Technical Education Authority and the Kansas Board of Regents. That was the next step beyond that program, and the curriculum being developed here and that whole package being put together has to go to the state level for review and potential approval there. And it was approved by the Board of Regents. That was the last step in June. In March, you asked us at that point in time after K-Board approval to come back, bring it back to you, and have some more discussion about it. And so you have in your board book information about the construction technology program. Mel Whiteside, Dean, is here tonight. I know he's got some representatives from the advisory committee here to visit and answer questions. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this development of this program. There's a lot of interest and a lot of support for it, and a lot of demand, obviously, in the construction industry. So I think, Mel, I'll turn it over to you. You're welcome to come up to the microphone and visit with the board. And I think you probably have a few people maybe joining you by Zoom, possibly, but engage your industry folks too to help answer questions and be part of the discussion if you'd like to. Okay.
Okay. Do I need to wear this while I'm?
You can take it off while you're talking.
Good.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
It's a little bit easier to hear sometimes.
So thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity again just to speak to the construction technology program. we do have at least 3 representatives from our advisory committee here to speak. Larry Weiss is with EB Construction. James McNall from Baran Concrete. I think he's with us via Zoom. And then Tyler Den with Wildcat Construction. And then I'm not sure if Randall Chickadons is available to meet with us from Rose Hill High School or not. But we just wanted to make ourselves available to answer any questions, additional questions or concerns you might have. And then I would like, if we had the opportunity for the advisory committee members just to speak to what their needs are out in industry. I think it's a really good representation of our industry for the construction technology program. One of the things I do want to mention is just give you an employment update. If you looked in the packets that were distributed to you, I went through and looked at the most recent employment job postings as of August 31st, 2020. And I think it's on page 5 of your report. Well, I'm sorry, it's on page 5 of mine.
Page 25 of ours, I think.
Page 20, okay.
Is probably what you're looking at.
Yeah. So as of August 31st, within a 50-mile radius, I just did a job search under construction under Indeed.com, and there were 91 job postings within the last 14 days. And then through ZipRecruiter, there were within, again, a 50-mile radius of Andover, not El Dorado, there were 69 job postings posted within the last 30 days. Of course, if you broaden that search out 90 days, you get larger numbers. But I felt that you guys needed to be aware of that. And that does not include many of the times the contractors themselves will post the jobs on their website. So it may not include those numbers, such as EB, they may have that site or those jobs posted on their website. Are any questions over that?
I just have one now.
Yes, Jim.
I was talking to a friend of mine that does HVAC stuff, and he said that he had borrowed, is the word he used, some electricians from an electrical company because they didn't have any work to do. So I'm kind of wondering, a little bit, is there any validity to what he's saying? And he's got them employed right now on a temporary basis, which seems to be different than what we're talking about here, that there's a real lack of tradesmen. But then I've heard other people that are in the construction business that are friends of mine tell me we need more tradesmen. We need some new people. We need help here and there. So is that just something maybe in the electrical area that's got that sort of an issue, but everywhere else we need tradesmen?
Well, I can't speak to that specifically, but I can tell you I do have a friend who does own an electrical company, and he has told me they are extremely busy. Okay. HVAC, I can't speak to that either. And I did not do a specific search for HVAC or electrical. So these numbers here were starting from laborers all the way up to project managers, job superintendents. But if we have Larry and Tyler speak, and I don't know if James is with us too, they might be able to speak to that a little bit as well.
I recognize those gentlemen, and I'd like to just hear briefly from them. Am I hearing the wrong thing in the grapevine?
Could they hear you? I don't know if they could.
I don't know.
Yeah. Did you catch that, Tyler or James?
Yeah, I heard that.
Dr. Kroll, can I have Mr. Weiss come up? And,
yeah, please do. Sure.
Okay.
And I recognize Wildcat and Baran and some of the people that you've mentioned as, great construction people in different areas.
Yes.
And I was just curious if, what I'd heard from this HVAC guy about borrowing electricians was reflective of what's going on, because I hear from others that they're in dire need of tradesmen. So just curious.
As he said, my name's Larry Weiss. I'm Senior Vice President, Construction Operations for Martin Eby Construction in Wichita. I will tell you that construction is a cyclical business. And one week it's where are we going to get enough people to do all this work? And the next week it's what are we going to do with these people? What that tells me is the HVAC side is really busy and he's looking for anybody that wants to show up for work and do a job. So he's borrowing them from whoever he can find.
Okay.
And that, we do that all the time to try to even out what we do with help. So
that's my experience currently also. My company's booked till November and we're just turned down 2 or 3 jobs a day. Electricians I know, they're like, you know, an 18-year-old kid will hire him tomorrow if he can drive a truck.
Wow.
And then, but it will catch up with you. I mean, like you're saying,
it's very cyclical.
There's certain people we use when we're really busy that we'd rather not use, and we have to do extra work after them. But even those people are busy right now. In my
Well, just to,
on our side.
sorry, Larry, were you done? I wanted to kind of add to that if I could. So, I mean, I agree with Larry, it's cyclical, but the other thing that we're not mentioning is it's not going to get immediate results, right? This program's going to start and it's going to produce students in 1 to 2 years that are going to enter the workforce. So I think we need to frame it more of a long-term investment in our community and our community's needs. And I think that everybody sees the need across the board with a high demand for labor and especially skilled folks. Well, we need to get kids trained to get skilled to move on. And, you know, I'm young and passionate about the construction industry. There's not very many young people getting into construction. So we've got to find ways. And that's why we latched on to this opportunity with Mel, and we've enjoyed partnering and being a part of the opportunity and aligning my passion with that, with our company's needs. So we see a lot of need. We have 36, I just checked our website. We have 36 current positions across our 1,000 employee company. We have several entities across Kansas and Oklahoma, and we have 36 open positions that vary from laborer to craft to operator to supervisor. So, and of those 36, I think 7 are specifically here in Wichita. And I mean, if we had a person that walked in the door that was good, we're signing them up. I mean, but we're not getting a lot of applicants at this point. But I think that's probably besides the point. Not thinking so much about right now, but in 1 to 2 years, we've got a huge shortage with labor supply, and we're going to continue to have demand. So that would be my 2 cents on it.
Well, you folks know much better than I do in my profession, so I appreciate that. That's kind of what I wanted to know. I mean, if I may ask, where are you hiring people now? Is it just other people who are working somewhere else, or?
Well, this is James with Barron Concrete. We're using all means possible. I mean, radio ads. We're also using referrals from in-house people, offering, anybody that come through the door. We also go to Pitt State, to look there. But, there's not, like Tyler said, there's not a lot of interest in the construction industry. And we just have to create that by getting into the high schools and getting them to understand that there's this path. They can get their 2-year degree through Butler, and be able to enter the workforce right away. Or they could, hopefully if we can do this right away, we can work hand in hand by providing internships or maybe after hours. There's all kinds of options that we discussed with Mel and the team that I think any one of us as employers would be willing to help and push along. So, we could hire 15 people tomorrow if they came in the door. But it's just, they're not there. So we're working overtime. Our standard guys are working 55 hours a week right now, and we don't see an end in sight.
So to answer that from our side, we recruit everywhere. I mean, Fort Hays State, K-State, Pitt State, our entities down in Oklahoma are recruiting the colleges down there. We're getting into the high schools for career construction days. We're getting into the middle schools for STEM days. We're trying to get on committees like this. I mean, we're doing everything we can to get in front of young people as soon as we can. And that's why I'm actually very excited for Butler, because I think your academy style program is perfect for the construction industry. It's perfect for getting in front of those kids and giving them that real world, see how they can help their communities immediately out of high school, even to start work and then to continue to get trained. So I'm excited for that opportunity.
That sounds like there's definitely a need to me after hearing from you guys, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate your willingness to participate in these programs because placement is important to us too. So thank you all.
I'm also on the board of directors for the Associated General Contractors of Kansas. I'm the chairman of the Workforce Development Committee. As such, we just got a study done nationwide, and I got the results on Friday. In the Midwest, 55% of the contractors are looking for craft hands, carpenters, laborers, operators, concrete workers.
Wow.
In the state of Kansas, it's 59%.
Wow.
As the chairman of the Workforce Development Committee, I'm also involved with what the AGC has put out that's Build Up Kansas. If you look on Build Up Kansas website, there's a link to a job board there where all the contractors have put their information out there looking for help. The other issue we have in the construction industry is we are aging rapidly. The talent's going out the door at a rapid pace. And if we can get some young kids in here who are interested in the business and we can get their curiosity up so they want to be students of the business, the opportunities for them it's just astronomical what they can do. I've got people retiring every day, people with 30, 40, 50 years, and we've got to get them replaced. And I think the best way to do that, if you can bring them in and give them the basics, we can take them and teach them from there. This program's set up to do just that. It's just going to give them the basics. It's not going to make them experts. We'll take them and do that. The program has masonry, electrical, plumbing. That just exposes them to that. And then if that's something that they like, we'll take them in industry and we'll make them experts at it. If you can spark their curiosity, we can do the rest. You know, we'll do the internships. The program shows 2 summer interns. They have to do 2 internships. I love to have those kids come work for me and work under one of my seasoned foremen. And typically, like we do at Hayes, K-State, Pittsburgh State, if they come do an internship with us and they're worth having, we're going to send them back to school with a scholarship. And more than likely, we're going to send them back to school with a scholarship and a letter that says, here's your job offer when you get out. You come back to work for us. We want you. So I can't express how much this program's needed. I mean, as James said, he could use 15. I'd take 5. That's the 20 that are in this program. I don't know what we're going to do for the rest of these guys. I mean, it's just.
Hey, Larry, I need 7. What about me?
Tyler doesn't get
Hey, if we're bidding, let's just keep going here.
Go ahead, Mary Martha.
Sir, tell me this. I'm sure your business is booming and you need that help, that talented help. But why are people leaving the industry? Is it because of age or is it injury?
Age mostly. We're just aging out the crews. Now, I will tell you that you've all seen construction is a dangerous business. But you look at these guys up here on the screen and myself, we put a lot of effort into keeping people safe. Mr. Smith,
A lot of training goes into that.
a lot of effort into keeping them safe every day. So while it is a dangerous business, we put a lot of time and money into keeping them safe, training. You're going to teach these kids OSHA training in this program. That's the basics of what they need when they get out. Just the basics. We watch after them every day. You know, it's our moral responsibility to send them home just the way they came to work. Maybe a little tireder, maybe a little dirtier, with all their fingers and all their toes.
Yeah, I'll speak to that too. I mean, safety, I mean, I say that to like a lot of the high school and middle school students, you know, it is a dangerous industry. But I'm proud to say there's not many industries, if any, that probably concentrate on safety as much as we do, and especially as a company. I don't think that's what's keeping young kids from getting into construction. They're not scared of it from a safety standpoint. They just don't work with their hands. They're not on, you know, most kids aren't getting that experience. Their parents aren't working in those industries and getting that experience. They're not getting exposed to it early enough to understand there's value in it. There's a long-term career in it. And so that's kind of where we come in, right? We got to help recruit for the industry and then help get those kids into these places where they can get that training and partner with you. And I'll second Larry's internship thing. I mean, that's what we're about too. That's how you get people into the company. It's how you get them tested. You see if they fit your culture. And we would love to plug into a program like this that's starting, you know, at the ground floor and help kind of be, you know, one of the major companies that are involved. So
Do you employ people that are 18 or do you require that they be 21?
I can speak on the behalf. We hired individuals that are 18. I mean, as soon as they can, you know, we can get them somewhat trained and get them, you know, properly, safely trained. And then, you know, from our perspective, we also do the internship just like the other companies here, EB and Wildcat. And one thing that really excites me is I don't feel like young people know that this is out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't know this is an option. So with the talk of the academy over in Butler, you know, in Butler County and Rose Hill, and possibly what that has to offer, getting in front of those high schoolers, getting them excited. I've got a freshman that just started today, and you know he's of interest to it. Now he's been around it, but now he's talking to his friends, and if they can get a direction, and I just like Tyler said, this is kids just don't know what's out there, and they can make a great living getting out and, you know, getting dirty and being outside every day. And then, you know, once you know, get a little bit older and you can move into different positions, whether you're project management, you know, senior estimating type positions. I mean, it's all about experience and, you know, we're really excited about being involved.
Thank you.
Mary Martha, okay. Julie, do you have a question?
Yes, the scholarships that you're talking about, are you talking about 4 years after they do the 2-year program here, or what did you have in mind? I was hoping maybe.
I mean, from our perspective, from our perspective, it would be what fits the individual best. You know, if an individual only wants to get a 2 years associate's degree and wants to get out in the industry, we can base it around that. I mean, and you know, if we got somebody that maybe they don't want to go traditionally to the campus or go online, and we can get them in the workforce right away and help provide training to them, whether that's once a week or, you know, a couple days a week, and work them the other days of the week here, getting experience out in the field, actually doing it hands-on. One of the other things that would excites me about this is we all talked about how much training we do for safety and OSHA training and that type of thing. I think with you guys putting this in place, we could team up and send some of our employees that we see potential in over to take some of your safety classes and kind of backfill that way. And maybe it sparks an interest in that employee and they want to move on and get that associate's degree. So
I'm just trying to be clear on something. I know that there is a market for this. I get that. I believe there is. So
Julie, we can't hear you.
I know there's a market for this. I've had experience in this myself. I've done some estimating in the past in my early days for construction. I guess when you mentioned scholarships, are you interested in targeting someone that wants to join the program but doesn't have the money and offering them some kind of a trade? You come to work for us for a period of time after you graduate. We'll pay your way as long as you do significant schoolwork and long as you do the right grades. The only reason I'm saying that is you are asking, and you do say that you're desperate, and you do say you can't encourage anyone or you can't get anyone to join. So I'm mentioning another option, or paying off student loans. For instance, if they come and join you for a period of time after that they graduate, that would be a very big enticement to some of these students that don't have the money to attend. Even in high school, I get complaints a lot from parents that they can't afford the general education credits because the tuition is just like you're going to college pretty much. So
If I can, in my world, if I can get them the day they graduate high school and put them to work, if they're worth having, we'll figure out a way to get them through this program or any program that teaches them how to do that.
even if it's daytime hours,
If it's
things
daytime
like that.
hours,
Okay.
we can give them a scholarship that says, okay, you're going to work for me spring break, Christmas break, if we have those things.
What's a break? We all work 80% of my team worked yesterday.
Well, I do think
But
that would be an
this,
enticement.
This type of industry, it comes down to the individual. Do you have the work ethic to put in the work? Are you
Right.
willing to work hard? Do you have
Yep.
attention to detail? You can't just show up. That gets you nothing. You have to show up and perform.
Yeah,
that's right.
So you need to come with the drive, the willingness to work, take instruction. If you have that, the sky's the limit, but that individual has to come with that on their own.
One of the things that we've been told about this current generation is they want to change the world. And I tell them all the time, if you want to physically change the world every single day, get in the construction industry. Because what it was when you walked in there at 7 o'clock in the morning is not what it is when you walk out at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's different. You've changed the world. And you impact more lives than you would care to guess. I mean, somebody built this building. I would scarcely estimate how many lives this building's touched in the time it's been here. With the students, the parents, the faculty, the community, whoever uses it. So we try to get those kids in, but what they see is typically, if you ask somebody about the construction industry, they see the guy standing alongside the road leaning on the stop sign.
Yes.
That's not what it is. We're professionals in this industry, all the way from the laborer to the guy that wears a sport coat on occasion. Which I still wear work boots, but I wear a sport coat just for the fun of it. So we've got a need. You've got a program that's designed to do it. We just got to figure out how to get it put in place. And it's going to be up to you guys to make that call.
My concern too is going to be,
Larry,
we're going to have the right teacher for this. These kids are going to learn a little bit of everything, but it's got to be a good little bit of everything, not just a handyman teaching our program.
hey Larry,
Curiosity, we can fix it.
Larry, I'll add to your comment too. I think a huge investment from the industry is stuff like we've talked about with Mel and James at different times, us getting into the classroom, us bringing heavy equipment to outdoor lab experience. And we're willing to do that. I mean, we need all the chances we can get to expose kids and get them excited and see how cool construction is. And so getting into classrooms to do presentations and talk about wages, talk about stuff that they care about, like what am I going to make when I get, like stuff like that, safety related topics. We all have a safety, some expert in safety we can lend, and getting in and plugging in consistently. We all want to do that. And I mean, everybody's interested in doing that. It's just a matter of getting the program started, recruiting to it, and helping funnel kids to that opportunity and make them realize, especially in this COVID world, right? Construction's not stopping. It's still going. We're still building stuff and there's still backlog. And this is a way to recover. Let's rebuild America. I mean, you're going to hear it over and over again politically. You're just going to hear it over and over again. And I think that it's a good time actually for this program to launch, because I think that there will be a focus on that. So.
In reviewing some of this budget information, and it's good, it's well compiled, don't get me wrong. But I just don't, 10 full-time, 10 part-time, that's not going to get it.
That's
With
just
what
to
you're
start.
saying.
That's
And-
just to start the program.
And that's why I was, in the beginning, encouraging all the companies that I see here, and I'm familiar with most of them, and I know that they are here in Wichita, to really get on board and get very active from the beginning by offering scholarships, offering assistance, so that we can get this program off the ground. I'd rather see 30 part-time and 30 full-time even in the first year, if the crisis is that great and you offer the right amount of rewards. I don't see how that is not possible. I understand that there are lots of gaps in construction. Trust me, I get that. And technical is good, and a trade is good. So I think that this program could really go, but this is almost depressing only to me. This is just me. To see 10 and 10, that's just very depressing to me.
Well, I think that's sometimes where you start when you start a program. Just that's the goal. That doesn't mean that that's what you're going to settle for by any means, but
so do something to boost that.
That is a projection. Excuse me, this is Lori. That's just a projection for the first year to 3 years. We know that we started our Health Science Academy with 7 students, and we now have more than 75 in that academy. So when we have to submit that to KBOR, those are for the first 3 years. And it's just like any new business, it takes time to grow that enrollment.
I know as part of the information that was in the board book, it talked a little bit about, hopefully a portion of this or a component of this could potentially be early college academy in construction technology. And Randall's on Zoom. He's the superintendent at Rose Hill, and they've been, he's been, and school district there have been a tremendous partner with our early college academies since the very beginning. The Health Science Academy was the very first one. So I know, Randall, you have some thoughts on the potential for an early college academy, and you're willing to create space at Rose Hill for that academy to be there. And I know, again, that's conversation that the advisory committees had about space and equipment and, that partnership, even at the high school level, where you can engage juniors and seniors to get them active and involved. So
Yeah,
I'd offer that to you, Randall, to offer a few comments if you want to.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dr. Kroll. And at first I would say the gentlemen that have been speaking, I am in awe. They've done a great job. They are very professional, and I'm just happy to be in the room most of the time. So, I would just add to what has been said. I think it's been covered very well. That I think the academy approach is one that is shown to be very successful. As Dr. Winningham said, we started the academies with 7 students, and we've grown that to over 200 if you look at all the academies. So I think the idea of academies is a proven way to educate kids, and it's very successful. And I think one of the things we talk about when we talk about we start with 10, do we need to grow it? I think with construction, the big thing is just exposure. Our kids right now are exposed to cabinet making, very specific kind of things, or home repairs. We're talking about opening worlds up for kids that don't exist right now. If once you graduate and you want to go into construction, I think there's some opportunity for there, but we're not really talking about that in high school. Our high schools are set up to give kids hands-on trades that get them into home repairs. And if you have some real interest, then you do that on your own. Where we're really talking about creating a working environment for kids that is tailored for them to move right into the construction world. So I think just the mere fact that the way it's designed will help kids with that exposure, giving them another opportunity for another very successful career. And so we're excited to partner here. We are committed to the program as an early college academy. We're talking with architects. We're ready to break some ground, put some more space and building on the Rose Hill campus that will help with this program. So we've appreciated the partnership with Butler Community College. We've shown to be a great partnership, and I think the academy approach is the way to go. So we're excited and committed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tickadon.
Anybody have any other questions? And we'll move along. Otherwise, thank you. I really appreciate all of you taking the time to visit with
Jim,
us.
I've got one.
Sure.
Mel, I know at least from my son's classmates a few years above and behind, they've been consistently sending kids to Pitt State in their don't know if it's construction management program.
Right.
Is our curriculum geared to where you could do 2 years at Butler, do the internships with the partners that we've got, and still transition into a 4-year program without having to retake classes?
Yeah,
or
Larry's
spend an
going to
extra
take
year?
care of all that for us. I'll let you speak to that,
I
Larry.
happen to be on the leadership council at Pittsburgh State for the School of Construction. I'm a past chairman of that. Matter of fact, Thursday I'm going down there to teach class. So I've got a few connections down at Pitt State. And they already have a 2+2 program with the program at Dodge City. There's more than one. So this program will line up perfectly. I'm sure once it gets started and they go through the matching process, that they'll be able to get a bachelor's degree at Pitt State after 2 additional years. And if I hire them as an intern coming out of here and they get ready to go to Pittsburgh State, I'll send them there with a scholarship too if they're worth having. So I'm pretty confident.
I would add that Michelle Reuter has worked on a 2+2 agreement with our corporate studies type programs, and she's already talked to them about this particular degree plan as well. And they are very interested in doing a 2+2 for our students.
I also will speak for, not for K-State, but I'm a construction science graduate from Kansas State University. So, and it's on their radar, and I think they'd be thrilled to line it up for those students. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the construction industry needs much more than 4-year educated construction managers. We need people that are interested in building things. We do, and we need people to get into the trades quick and get in the field and start learning how to build. And a lot of that can happen through an academy style setup. So I really think that's why Butler is uniquely positioned to do both, to help those kids get interested, start working, or take that path on. So I think you shouldn't forget that. I think that's probably the biggest demand that we're talking about here, is the people that put in the work.
And are we looking to start this in this coming spring? And this is a stacking program, so we have one teacher starting in the spring, so that's going to be first year, and then they go to the second year. How are they going to start just the first year? I mean, they can't. A new batch of kids can't start until the following spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. And I'll let Lori speak to this a little bit too, but our thought is to get somebody on staff for the spring that probably won't be able to teach a full load in the spring, but to have them start going out and visiting with the high schools, recruiting, touching base with industry, developing industry partnerships, touching base with K-State, Pitt State, getting those 2+2s going. I mean, there's a lot to do for a new faculty member of any program. I mean, outside of teaching. And then our thought is in the fall, we kick off, we're big, ready to go. We've recruited high school students, try to get those numbers up above 10, hopefully 20. Those are very conservative numbers for a reason. We felt that would be better for us to go under than to be too ambitious and go over. So that's the answer I have for you on that question. Another thing I want to say too, this is a stackable program. So as the students are going through the degree track, they can get stackable credentials. They don't have to finish up the associate degree. They can finish up in 9 months, similar to our welding and automotive technology programs. They can finish up in 9 months, or they can choose to go on and get their associate degree. So we've got those options in place too.
So possibly the first year, if we start a teacher full-time in the spring, our initial budget of a $50,000 teacher might be closer to $75,000 because we spent half of a year prepping. In that first whole year.
It could be, but I don't want to speak for Dr. Kroll or Lori on the instructional side. And so we can do it several ways. If we start in the spring, it really throws things off for us.
No, you just meant
Yeah.
starting hire someone in the
Right.
spring. I'm just really concerned that we need a craftsman teaching this class, not a
They'll
Right.
have to meet higher learning commission credentials to be able to teach for
Well,
us.
there's also a thing, if they had 20 years in experience in the industry,
Sure.
they could teach. I mean,
Sure,
there's,
Yeah.
you just need the right person
Oh, yeah.
regardless of.
They know that.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
also, as a board, I'd like to be able to see this program in 2 years and say, hey, how are we looking? Because each time a kid comes in with the intent of doing 2 years, hopefully we're going great at that point, we can continue, or if not, we need to, look at
Sure.
it.
Yeah,
Like
I
we do with
agree.
Auto body and say, is this going to go well? If not, this is the last 2 years, unless it takes off.
Right.
So I had indicated to these folks that we can't, you can't put courses in the catalog, we can't advertise, we can't market, we can't recruit until it comes back to you folks for your blessing to move forward with it. So, that's why we're here tonight. We've had some great conversation and great representatives from the industry to share thoughts. And so, we would hope that you would support us being able to move forward with this and get going on it and start to get out there and get the word out. So,
And would this be something like, hey, we got intro to HVAC, we got a retired plumber, loves kids. Can we hire a man with 30, 40 years experience to teach a 3-hour class? And then have a professional teaching,
And we do plan on having some adjuncts teach some of the specialized courses.
Because a lot of these are just prerequisite classes like
Right.
Spanish and entrepreneur and public speaking. All that's just already going.
Right.
I mean, just roofing, the required mathematics to engineer roof from scratch, not read a blueprint, but engineer roof. I'm wanting to make sure that they get plenty of blueprint. I don't see that, or reading of blueprints as far as construction blueprints. And I also I'm missing any class in heavy equipment operation. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to actually operate the equipment.
Right.
But maybe some kind of a class where they go and observe or something. And I'm not.
Yeah. So
I understand what you're trying to do, but at the same time, there's some of this stuff that I'm a little bit nervous about in the solidifying a total agreement until some of the blanks are filled up. And I don't want anybody to think I'm a naysayer. If there was a program I was going to support, it would definitely be construction. Okay. I see that. I see the kids being taught in school from the time they're in a crib practically. Oh, you got to go to college. You got to do this, and the trades have suffered because of this, which is why Mike Rowe and his scholarships are so very popular. But at the same time, to me, there's just a few more things that needed to be added, and hiring the individual that is a person that can go in amongst all those worlds is going to be really critical. And I'm not sure that we can find one individual that can sell the program, teach the program, promote the program, market the program. I'm not sure we can find anybody like that.
I think we trust Dr. Krull and Mel to do their job and be able to find that person.
Yeah.
I don't think this is about trust. I think this is about.
Do you think you're more qualified to find that person than the people at the
Forrest,
college are?
I'm not going to get into a broad.
No, I'm just asking what you're seeking.
I'm saying that you're always doing this.
I'm
okay?
asking you what
I
you're
ask
seeking.
questions.
You're here pontificating
Do you
about
think
what we
you're
need,
more
but you're not a
qualified than I am to be a board member?
I'm
Thank
asking you what you are hoping. It sounds like you're trying to slow roll this.
No,
despite
I am
professing it.
saying there's a few more things that I'd really like to see. And I did notice that there was some contributions already made on some of these programs that companies that participated. I'd like to see more, or at least some kind of a plan on scholarships. I very much want this program to go now, but I'm not sure that it should be done without some kind of oversight board.
Mr. Chairman,
Now,
I move that we
granted, you're
approve the
there.
Construction technology program as presented in trustee administration.
Are we going to
and
table
the
this then?
professionals,
Are we ending the
to
discussion?
implement the program.
Second.
Discuss? So nice of you to do that when we're just trying to get questions answered. Shelby, did you have any more questions? They pretty much cut off the discussion
No, it's
now.
time for discussion. It's been a motion and a second. There's time for discussion.
Yeah, there's more
Yeah,
discussion.
you can
need to have.
discuss after the motions are
I
made.
think what I just
Typically,
came in
that's
on
how
it,
it's done.
like any program, let's keep an eye on it. Let's see how things are. What I don't want to have happen is like, hey, we need another $10,000 because we want a shed, or we want another $20,000 because I don't want more money poured into it. At the beginning, we've allotted quite a bit for tools, equipment, all that. And if the industry guys are really good at saying what they're going to do, you guys got plenty of equipment lying around that we don't need to go buy brand new stuff to start a program like this. We don't need new hammers, new levels, new tool belts. If this is going to happen, these guys got plenty of stuff to give us. I mean, you guys have truckloads and roomfuls of garbage you can have us.
And I
the
hope
kids
that
can
you'll
use.
continue to participate.
And that would
as
make
some
this
kind of
much
an
better for us
oversight.
to get going with.
I think it's also,
No, I know. Yeah, I've got like 5 tool belts that are decent.
I
That'd
think
be
it's
great tool
also
belts.
important for the board to understand that the advisory committee members, 3, 4 represented here, have been part of this conversation from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah,
There are
that's-
other advisory committee members that have been actively engaged. The curriculum was all developed based on national certification standards. And so there was input from the very beginning from the industry specialists and the advisory committee members in how this curriculum came together. So it wasn't just Mel and Lori that put it together.
Right.
There were industry folks sitting at the table directing and saying, this is how this program should
Right.
look.
It's
And
great seeing you guys
Yeah.
here and your excitement and you're
Yes.
ready to go.
So we
And your
appreciate your
time.
time and energy.
And I'll just interject and say that my understanding of what we're doing here is we're approving the implementation of the program. And it's going to take some time to fine tune
sure, yeah.
faculty, equipment. I mean, it's going to take some time, but we have to launch it. And
Right,
this is
right.
basically to launch it. And like you say, Shelby, we got to watch it and make
Yeah.
it grow.
Let's see
We
what
got
we can
great
start with
folks here
donations
that are
and then-
willing to help us recruit,
Sure.
make sure we're doing the right thing, but we've got to implement it. And I think that's the motion
Oh, yeah.
that's before us right now.
Well, it's
Let's
just,
call the question, sir.
Let's call the question.
as just my last comment here, I would just like to see a little bit more tracking on things like donations to the program, and that includes equipment, because that equipment is extremely expensive, and I get that. We don't want anything to happen to it, especially if it belongs to various companies. I would like to see more participation in that kind of management of the resources, management of I guess, overall, everything in this program. So if there's only one person in charge, would that be you that's going to be in charge of the program, pretty
No.
much?
Well, I'll oversee the faculty member. I won't be in charge of the program.
So who actually can we go to and say, hey, we need a updated status report on the program? And
Well,
what,
it'll be me until we hire a faculty member, and
Okay.
then I will work with them. And just to speak to your questions earlier about blueprint reading and heavy equipment, we had to be very careful to not go over the 60 hours for the associate degree. So we had to make some decisions as to what was really important and what was not, what took priority. Blueprint reading can be integrated throughout the program in different courses, and I
that's what your
suspect it
plan
will
is,
be.
okay.
And heavy equipment, even though it's not listed as a course, it will be part of a course or two. So, but yeah, and I also want you guys to know, our department chairs and leads, they do so much more than teach. They are out recruiting, they are out marketing their programs, they're budget managers, they do a lot. And so you're right, it will be a challenge to find the right person, but we have found the right people, for welding, auto tech, and others. And I'm confident we will find the right person to manage this program as well.
none of this program pretty much parallel, or at least closely parallel, when compared to other programs like it throughout the U.S.?
A little bit, but it also has some uniqueness because we are trying to meet local industry or regional industry needs. So again, we aligned it with what industry asked us to.
Okay.
We also aligned it with, I'm not going to get it right, NCCER.
That's correct, Mel. We use
Okay.
that curriculum. And so the students will actually earn some certificates through NCCER as they go through the curriculum. They will leave, I think there was 3 certificates that they'll either have the whole certificate or a good portion of those certificates through NCCER.
Hey, Mel, just to not to interrupt, but to add to your comment about heavy equipment, I mean, we see that as an opportunity, right? As an in-kind donation. It takes thousands of dollars usually to get a piece like a skid steer or an excavator on a job. But me and our partners that are on this advisory, we're suggesting it's not just about small tools. It's about, right, showing up with that big equipment. And that's something that, as an industry partner, we have on our job site every day, and we're willing to, deliver to the right opportunity. So I think that's, something to consider, is getting this launched so we can start doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would second. We're on board totally, and the uniqueness of this is the academy. I don't know. I mean, that's the uniqueness. If I would have seen this as a high school, and when I was in high school, I'd be on board as soon as possible. I mean, that is the uniqueness. I don't know of any other construction science programs that are going out and offering credits to juniors and seniors in high school. So I think that has a really unique opportunity to get to a lot of our young people before other colleges or other opportunities present themselves. So I think the uniqueness of this is a lot different than your Pitt State and your K-State.
In our early college academies, again, as we take that as an example, I think we're not starting from ground zero, because we have something that we can go back to on what's we've already put in place. And so the advisory committee has already given us some industry specialization on how to make this work like the other academies. And again, like the gentlemen have said, I'm excited and ready to get started with an approval nod. We're ready to start building some kind of a building to get kids into.
Quick question, sorry. So is this, what I'm hearing now, is this also like a dual credit program for juniors and seniors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I think the pivotal question here, and there's a motion and a second, have been pretty well discussed. I think we think this is a great program. It's going to take a little tweaking, a little bit of work. We've got great people to do it in the industry and within the college. So I'd go ahead and call the question for a vote.
Okay, Trustee Good, yay or nay?
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
So it passes unanimously.
Again, thank you all for taking the time
very much. Thank
and
you.
the
Thank
efforts
you.
that you're going to make now and in the future on this.
Yeah.
And
Most
living as a
appreciate you.
tradesman, it's a rewarding path. I mean, I've got a 4-year degree. I would shoot myself if I had to work at a desk. I honestly would.
Yeah.
But working with your hands and creating something every day, it gives you a sense of satisfaction. You've accomplished something.
Yep.
It's a different person, but it's still. Oh yeah, you can't go very far the older you get.
You do that now, don't you, Shelby?
The older you get, the
Yep.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you,
support.
everyone.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank all of you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, if Kathy's still with us, we're
Yeah.
going to jet back to sabbatical report. Kathy,
Okay.
thanks for your patience.
Yeah, of course. It was great to hear that. I was excited because I've had several students say they're interested in construction, so I'm pumped. So, well, thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So my sabbatical last fall was about developing instructional strategies to help lower developmental students in English grow in many ways, reading, writing, and critical thinking. And this is my area of interest because I'm the lead over the developmental English program and the ALP program, which you've heard about several times, Accelerated Learning Program. So what I did was develop a shell, a canvas shell full of research for our Accelerated Learning Program instructors to more specifically and intentionally support lower English students in ways that are needed. With our use of multiple measures in our placement program now, we're really the people who are left in our ALP program are students who really need to have extra support in English. And often what they need is not like more grammar or something like that. It's really a lot of more confidence building, help with reading harder texts, and more support on learning the writing process. And so I was just going to show you my screen real quick. I don't want to take too much of your time and show you the shell that I developed is here And so ALP instructors, and actually the whole English department, can go into this and do a training where they're going over what the characteristics of our students are based on data and other things that we've learned. Learning about how to help them transfer their reading class strategies, improving their reading cycle, which is using reading to connect to writing. And this is really interesting, helping them transition from high school to college. There's some really good fresh research on that that I think our instructors could benefit a lot from, including me. Metacognition, and then finally kind of rethinking our program in ways that we can present and support students even better than we already are. So that training module is available for our instructors and English instructors now, and they're starting to use it. And we'll just continue to use that in our trainings and our interactions together. So I think that's all I have. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Did you work with Shirley Taylor from the search program on skills that her students need for their college experience?
No, I did not, and I'm not aware of her.
She's head of the search program there at the college, where she has probably 7 to 12 students who have been identified as having a learning disability or a developmentally disability.
Okay.
And I just wondered if you had worked with her to see what she sees her kids needing.
Okay, very good. I will definitely look into that, Mary Martha. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. Thank you, Kathy.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Kathy, for all
Thank
your
you.
hard work.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving back to the board action items, since we have no board strategic discussion issues and opportunities, we now have the policy revisions. Given the changes and how all the reading that was involved, I think it's best that if we take these up by separate motions. So what I'd like to do is break these down and first look at the policy revisions to the Board of Trustees bylaws,
Okay.
which starts on page 33. Kim, if you'd like to start that out.
Yeah, I know Phil has joined us as well. You know, we've kind of indicated to you in past meetings that we're in the process of going through the employee handbook and updating it, revising it based on best practices, trying to put things in a different format so they're more accessible and searchable. If you look at best practices from a lot of institutions, you know, their board policies, all their college policies are numbered, they're organized in a different format. And so really part of the goal that we have in place here is to do that with our policies and procedures as well. And have done, you know, a lot of research on those best practices and, you know, are starting to go through all of those policies. The first section of the employee handbook was the board policies, and they're pretty compact and pretty, you know, concise. And so it made sense to start off with, because really, you know, board policy is what dictates everything that the college does. It made sense to go through and look at those board policies first. Phil and I've had some conversation about this, and it's especially important even from a higher learning commission perspective, because when they come in for a visit, they'll be here in a couple of years. When they come in for a visit, that's one of the areas that they really look at is your policies. How recent are they? How reviewed are they? How updated are they? And it's going to take us the better part of a year to get through all of our policies. So you've seen some on the board agenda the last couple of months, and you're going to continue to see them probably every single month coming forward as we work through everything. And so I wanted Phil to provide some insight, you know, from his perspective as a peer reviewer. He's done, I don't know how many years you've been a peer reviewer, Phil, but lots and lots of site team visits to other institutions. And so really ask Phil to give a little bit of insight on the importance of making sure the policies are up to date and reviewed, and specifically board policies. I think that's one of the areas that Phil reviews when he goes on site team visits. And so, you know, offer some thoughts from your end, Phil, about the importance of this, if you will, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I've been a peer reviewer for over 15 years. And in recent years, one of my areas particularly of focus when I'm on a team, and in fact, I'm even now a team chair when we go and evaluate schools, is the operation of the board and the relationship of the way a board operates with the administration of the school. And community colleges such as Butler that are in states which do not have organized community college systems, where all the community colleges are really under the same board of governors operating for the state, particularly come under scrutiny. It's good that you are entering into this process right now, because the next comprehensive evaluation of Butler will be in the spring of 2023. And it is much better that a school 2 or 3 years out goes through this process so that things are very clearly articulated, that they very clearly support the mission of the college, and that it's very easy to establish through an evaluation team coming in and going through a random survey of Board of Trustees minutes to see how the Board of Trustees in its policies and also in its ongoing behavior is clearly appropriately behaving, supporting the mission of the school, and overseeing in an appropriate perspective for its relationship to the college as a whole. I thought it might be helpful, and I think I can share my screen, Laura. Yeah. I thought it might be helpful for you to see where the board's behavior and board's policies are addressed in the 5 criteria of the Higher Learning Commission. You can, incidentally, if you're interested in looking more in depth at the Higher Learning Commission's criteria for accreditation, you can go on hlc.com and just search criteria, and it comes, one of the first things that comes up on the website. So there are 5 criteria, and 2 of them very directly address the operation of a board. Number 1, which is mission. I've got the 2 main questions there. Does board policy clearly support the college's mission? And secondly, do board members clearly support the college's educational purposes over supporting external interests? So does the board clearly prioritize supporting the educational purposes of a college as opposed to seeming more interested in supporting outside external interests? Now, these criteria have been recently reviewed and revised in the last 2 or 3 years. And now there's a whole section that entirely focuses on board policies and behaviors. It's under criterion 2, integrity, ethical and responsible conduct. And this is where issues of, for instance, conflict of interest come in. So you can just kind of scan down through those 5 points. These are 5 things that a team would look at, both from the documentation that the school will submit to the team a couple of months in advance of the visit. And then one thing that shows you how important the board's operation is to a visiting team is generally other issues that we look at. 1 or 2 people from a 5-person team will spend time talking to people in the college about those issues. When it comes to the board, all 5 members of the team will spend time talking with the board and looking at board documentation. So here are these 5 points. The first one pertains to the governing board being trained and knowledgeable. I know one of the things you're going to look at in potential policy revision is the whole issue of board professional development. That's become considered a much more important component. Secondly, that the governing board's deliberations reflect priorities to preserve and enhance the institution. They will be going through board minutes. Number 3, the governing board reviews the reasonable and relevant interests of the institution's internal and external constituencies in decision-making. So is there a good balance between what really, as previously has been said, preserves and enhances the school and what is important to the external community in supporting the school and the school supporting the community? Then is the governing board independent from undue influence? That's where you get into conflict of interest issues. And finally, does the governing board clearly delegate day-to-day management of the institution to the institution's administration? And do they let faculty oversee the academic operation of the school? That is a very complicated issue. It's a very delicate balance, but it's important that the governing body be working with the school and supporting the school and making the top level decisions, and then letting the administration really run the school. There are basically, under the 5 criteria for accreditation, there are 18 major issue areas. I would say in almost every visit I've been on, the operation of the board is in the top 5 that the team will pay the most attention to. And talking to Dr. Kroll, it's a very positive thing to me, the fact that you're going ahead and dealing with this now. Oftentimes what colleges will do the year or so before the visit, they'll get down to this. And so when the team comes, what they're saying is, well, this is what we're going to do. What Butler will be able to do with this good work that you're working on now is Butler will be able to say, this is what we are doing. This is what we've done, and this is what we're continuing to do. And that is very good for the health of the school in terms of accreditation. And you know, accreditation can seem sort of like a separate issue, but really there are 1,100 schools in 19 states. Every school you think of at the college and university level is accredited in this center of the United States, 19 state area. A school is nothing without its accreditation. And frankly, the scrutiny of the federal government recently has become greater as opposed to lesser in terms of attention to these accreditation issues. So I'm going to stick around during your discussion if you have any questions, but I think that's kind of an overview of why it's good to be doing this.
Thank you. Yeah. Feel free to join in here. And you know, when we started through this, again, looked at policies in state and out of state, Johnson County, Kansas City, Kansas, Hutchinson, City Colleges of Chicago, Maricopa, Pima, you know, you just start to do searches, Neosho Community College, big and small. You know, you start to do searches, and what you see in a lot of those is very consistent language in all of the policies. And so as we start through these, some of them, you know, you'll see that there's a couple of new policies, but then you'll also see, you know, some of them where there's some additions to existing policies. And a lot of those were just in comparing our policies to some of the other ones, there seemed to be some gaps and some places where we could clarify some wording and strengthen some of our policy. So, you know, these are your policies. I just have taken the lead to try and create some changes, so you have something to look at and to go from. And so these can still be changed if they need to be. The bylaws specifically, as you looked at our board bylaws, there weren't any headings or any numbering in them. So a lot of the changes that have happened within the bylaws are simply to format them in a way that's easier to read and easier to identify. I went through and changed shall to will. It's kind of a grammatical kind of thing. Shall is usually a first person verb. Will is a third person verb. And, you know, picky little things. If you want it to be shall, you can have it be shall, but I pulled out my plain English handbook and looked that up. You know, when should you use will and when should you use shall? And so I made those changes. I'm sorry, Julie?
I had a question about the minutes. He talked about doing an audit of those in the review when you come down in 2021. I guess my question is, now we have minutes, but do you also review the videos? Because I'm not really sure if the college maintains a library of all videos of the meetings, but I was interested to know if you also spot check maybe some of the videos as well, or just rely on the minutes.
You know, that's kind of a new issue. I anticipate as things are becoming clearly more virtual that we probably will begin to ask for videos. I have a feeling that some of the documentation that colleges are going to start supplying will involve that. But thus far, no, not particularly, but that's an interesting, insight that may be true in the future.
Another question I had is in reviewing this at the last minute, which we didn't get our packet till, well, it's hard to review it in the time amount that we had, but I'm wondering of my colleagues, if all of you have read the changes prior to tonight. If you've read all changes prior to tonight.
I did.
I did.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I came and got the book on Friday, so I have it in my hand. I've had my hands on.
I got mine Saturday.
So back to the bylaws, added headings, numbering. If you turn to page 20 to page 34, identified under special meetings that board action will take place only on the items that are listed. That's pretty standard procedure for special meetings. Under the agenda, clarified some wording here. And really, some of this is based, again, Johnson County had this in their policy, I think, and a couple of other institutions. Right now, Laura, we have in place guidelines for people to submit topics for the board agenda, by a certain deadline. For our office, we want it in our office the Friday before the last Friday of the month, to try and put the agenda together. So some of this is to, again, clarify when it works best to have these agenda items in place to try and get the board book together. Doesn't mean that you can't change the agenda when you come to the board meeting. But typically what happens is that the president and the board chair are the ones that review those agenda items and put the agenda together.
Yes, and I just want to comment real quickly before we move on that
You need to complete
there are. I don't know. That's why I said, as long as we're on that subject.
Go ahead, Julie.
I just wanted to say that as far as 3 in the agenda, and I understand about the policies and how they have to change and how they have to be redone, but our board book actually stated that by the 3rd Friday of the month, we could submit something to the agenda as board members to be placed on the agenda. And what this does is it moves all control of whatever is on the agenda. It is all now subject to the board president and the president of the college, which I greatly disagree with that.
Well,
I'm just pointing it out. No, it's very good that we're taking this one thing at a time so that I can make my comments public, and they will be on record.
It just clarifies it again. I mean, it doesn't,
No, it does. It clarifies that there will be no actions. Right now, according to the board policy handbook, a person that is actually elected to this board can submit something to be on the agenda. That is in the board policy book, but they are changing the bylaws to where it is under the complete control of the president and the board president.
You can still, by Robert's Rules of Order, bring an agenda item to
this. I do not believe that. And I understand what you're saying. Yes, it is in there. However, you're still making it in writing and a permanent bylaw that you or whoever is our president and the president of the board will have full control over what is on the agenda. And I didn't get elected here to be quiet and to be silent.
That's standard operating procedure, though, isn't it, Julie?
Not for here. It may be in Johnson County where they have had one member that has been constantly
The president
censured.
of the school board in Augusta and the superintendent set the agenda for
And usually they're a little bit more agreeable.
Senator Susan Waggle, the president of the
I
Senate,
understand that, but
sets the agenda. We'd all have Medicare across the state if Senator Waggle would allow us to.
Okay.
So people in control set the agenda.
Well, I wasn't quite done, but it's okay. I appreciate you interjecting. My point is, okay, we do need to have some kind of a say. We have no way to come to a meeting and be on the agenda under board reports as a board member because we have been denied that.
That's
was
just
early
flat
on.
not true, Julie. It's not true.
Were you at that meeting, Shelby, where we were denied that?
It's just not true. You can motion at the beginning of every meeting to
amend
add
the
the
And you
agenda.
can decide whether or not we can have that.
No, I don't. This board
Not to
does.
stir anything up, we did try that twice with Educare, and there wasn't even a vote.
There wasn't
after
a formal
and a
motion.
I don't
second.
remember
wasn't
there
a
ever being a
formal
motion
motion.
about
Not a formal
Educare.
motion
Julie
in the
mentioned
second.
something.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
remember
I
there
brought
being
it
a
up the
motion.
following week in motion that it be put on, she seconded, and then there was a no driving on. So
Right.
I don't want to get involved in bygones at that
we don't have to get, we got a lot here. We don't have to get hung up on the details.
And
If
maybe
you don't
what we
want,
should be doing
Let
is,
Julie
if
go
you
ahead and
don't
have her
want-
piece on everything.
yes,
That's fine.
a work session would be great where we could analyze all of this instead of having to do it 4 days before. And that is
listen,
another
I'm
thing.
not saying that you have to approve these tonight.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm putting these changes in front of you as board members, as a template, as a starting point. If you don't want to vote on them tonight, you don't have to. There's no requirement.
Well, we won't have any decision. That'll be up to the president.
You're the ones that have to vote on these as motions.
We can talk about it, say what we want right now and amend it
right.
if we want to.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I would like to understand why page 34 at the very bottom, it's stricken out. Any member of the board may ask any item of special interest to be included on this agenda. I would move to unstrike that.
Yes.
Well, that's fine.
It's like, hey,
I took
we
that
wanna
out
put something
because
on
it's,
there, we can. That seems fair.
that's fine. We can
Because we
take
may
that.
not always have a president.
Can you let Dr. Kroll answer the question, please?
Sure.
You have every opportunity through Robert's Rules of Order to bring items to the board. And again, if you want it in there, that's
like what
fine.
I say, right now, I move to unstrike.
There's already,
Okay, I'll
let's
second.
not do these by motions. Let's do it by consensus, and the overarching motion probably needs to formally approve, anything at the end. I think you
I
guys can
think
do
ought
it
to
by
be one at a time.
consensus. If you want that left in there, we can leave it in there. It doesn't make any difference to me.
What's the deadline?
Okay, I still can't hear Shelby. So Shelby, repeat what you said.
Just on the very last sentence at the bottom of page 34.
Yes.
We're currently looking at striking, any member of the board may ask that any item of special interest be included on this agenda. I don't think that needs to be taken out of our book. I would say I make a motion to unstrike that and just leave it.
And I'll second.
And Julie said a second.
Discussion?
But I don't want to vote on this tonight and accept or deny if we haven't had
Well,
input
there's a
on it.
motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Would you like to withdraw your motion, Shelby?
No.
Well, we're just talking right now, I thought.
Well, yeah, I thought we were going by these item by item, the bylaws and then the code of conduct.
Which it should be.
We are, but I don't
But
know
so
that.
before
I
that
don't know
gets
that each
voted on,
individual- I don't know that each individual change needs to be voted on. Can we talk about the overarching changes, and then you can come back and.
Okay, I was just
Yeah,
doing it
I'll
while,
ask you to make a note and we'll make editorial changes when we're done.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Before we approve the
Let's
bylaws
go
in
all the way
whole, we
through
can
and then
address.
before we
And then
make
we
a
say
motion for
everything we've spoken
adoption,
of before
we
we.
would review the things you'd like to review.
Okay,
I
so
made,
it's
I
gonna
put
be
a
it's
star
gonna
by
be a
that.
list of things.
Okay,
Or just put it next to it and we'll come back to that.
I'm marking them in my book.
Oh, I've got it.
Next,
I've got it marked.
please.
So there's also a change here that identifies that a community member, any other people can bring agenda items, longer time frame for them. But again, those changes need to be approved by the president and the board chair. And here's why. Because someone from the outside might want to bring a personnel item to the board, or something that shouldn't be discussed in public. Those kinds of things need to be addressed, and there needs to be some oversight. We can't just automatically say that any agenda item that comes from the outside can be added to the agenda, because it may not be appropriate to do that. That's why that language is in there. It's not to put walls up, not to stop anything, but it's to allow you as a board to be able to say to somebody, that's not a topic we can discuss. You cannot talk
We can
about
put it in here in the statute that goes with it as far as privacy. We can put that right in here.
I'm just saying up front that when somebody from the outside brings that, it gives you as a board an opportunity to say, we aren't going to discuss that item. So I guess I don't think that it's controversial language necessarily.
No, just controlling.
It provides guidelines, Julie. It provides guidelines for you as a board and for the operation of this board and the meetings to be based on policy and appropriate best practices and format.
Okay, one more thing I have to say about the
changes at the top of page 35 is that 4 days should be at the very least 4 business days.
It says 4 days prior to the meeting.
That's right.
I was going to ask for 4 working days also, because it's a
4
lot to get
working
through.
days, not 4 days.
So if we could get our books like Wednesday.
Well, we're trying. The thing that we wait on is the financial information. If you want the financial information in the board book, I'm going to work with Laura to see if we can change the schedule a little bit to make sure that they get out to you on Wednesday.
Yeah.
You get them by email, right away. This month there was a glitch, and with the holiday it made it a little bit harder. But when Laura and I have a chance to talk tomorrow, we're going to work on that schedule a little bit. So,
Right. But I have a note on here for 4 working days, because I got it Saturday. I worked Saturday, got it Saturday night, worked Monday, and it's like.
Well,
So it'd
I'm
be-
saying to you
right.
that the Secretarial Center
No, I
this month
understand.
had
I
trouble
understand.
getting it out to you.
Right, but I just had that note as well.
Right.
Kim, would it be
You
too
can come pick
costly-
them up.
too costly to, if it's the financial stuff that's holding it up, to send the rest of it in the book and have the financial stuff?
I'll talk
You
to
know, as
Laura
a-
about
as a-
revising
in
the
a smaller
schedule.
booklet, or just even as a stapled packet or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, we can see what we can figure out.
Yeah, the financials is a separate book. Might
Just
be
a
good idea.
separate.
All right, moving on.
Under and some of these are just, again, grammatical kinds of things. Under the board officers, identified right up front who the board officers were, and just kind of rearranged. Some of that information was at the end of that section.
What page are you on?
35 and 36.
And then bottom 35.
When you get to page 37, under professional development,
I hate to
important.
stop you again, but I still had more questions on page 35, and you've already gone to 36.
All right, what
and
are your questions
37.
then, please?
Okay, on 3.9 motions, I think all votes should be roll called to better record. I don't know why we would not roll call them, but maybe that's what you meant. Maybe the wording I'm misreading.
No, this
And
wording is
also-
the way it was.
Also, I think somewhere in this, we should have, if the trustees that are elected to the board are not granted any time to discuss special incidents that might come before them that are not personnel related, let me make that very clear, and that are not anything that would be prohibited due to private information being disclosed. I don't see a problem in them being able to join the public minutes or the public speaking part. So maybe we should include that as a trustee can be granted time on the agenda under public speaking if they are forbidden to give a board report or bring special notice or incidents or any potential areas of problems to the board directly and prohibited by the chair.
Are you including me in
I don't
that?
see that going
Yes.
anywhere next.
Yeah. Duly noted.
I think
Duly
you have
noted.
an opportunity to bring, through agenda changes, some of those things.
If it's approved by you and him.
No,
No.
Julie, that's not right. What they've said several times, you can, when the agenda is approved at the start of each meeting, you can make a motion to amend the agenda.
And we did that 2 meetings ago.
There's a disagreement as to whether you did, but no one is disagreeing that the rule isn't there to allow you to. I've been at all the meetings. I don't remember a motion in a second to do what you're saying was done. Now, maybe I missed it. My guess is if it happened, other people did too. But the rule is there to allow you to amend the agenda.
So are you going to make this 4 business days on page 35 before we move on to 36?
Let me talk to Laura about trying to change that schedule. I don't know that we can do 4 business days, because 4 business days would mean that we would have to get the agenda out to you on Monday. And I don't know that we can get that accomplished or not. You think it's easy to put the board books together. It's
No,
not.
I'm not saying
It
it
is
is.
not.
It's just-
It's very
it's easy at all.
complicated.
Just a lot for us to go
So,
through. But we
so
want to be prepared, or I do.
Well,
I assume we all do.
let me talk to Laura and see what we can get figured out. I don't know that we can manage 4 working days, because that would mean that it would have to go to the Secretarial Center on Monday to be mailed out on Tuesday, and I don't know that we can make that time.
And then I foresee a lot of changes being made then in the interim that's going to make a lot of this inaccurate. I'd rather have it right.
Okay.
page 36, can you explain why you wanted to get rid of that? Is that also mentioned somewhere?
No, I
in the
just
book?
rearranged, Julie. I moved that section to the front end of that to clarify who the board officers were to start off with. And it's included then in that very first section. Okay? 4.01, I just moved it to the top.
Editorial change.
Yes.
What's next?
Article 6 under professional development, important, I think we think for you to have annual professional development. Doesn't mean you have to go to national conventions or anything like that. It can be books, it can be webinars, it can be documents that, I just share with you. I shared a bunch from the Governance Leadership Institute on SharePoint for you. So that expectation of professional development annually is pretty standard. Board participation under professional development. Some of what I took out here was specific stuff about travel and reimbursement, because it's easier just to say under 6.2, travel expenses and other expenses incurred will be reimbursed in accordance with our established travel payment and reimbursement policy for the college. So it's more comprehensive. And so I took most of that out. I did leave in, because I thought it was important for folks to know that we don't reimburse travel expenses or any expenses for spouses or other members of the family. And there's some specific items that we don't reimburse for, alcoholic beverages and those kinds of things. The other thing is, as part of our travel and reimbursement policy, those requests for reimbursement have to be supported by itemized receipts. And they need to be turned in, within 10 days of the last day of travel, so we can get those processed pretty quickly. And then under board member benefits, it's just a couple of grammatical changes and then numbering. So.
Okay, well, that takes us through B1.
Page 39. Oh, do what now?
That takes us through B1. If we're going to take these in
individually
sections, do we want to table any of these to look at some issues, or do we want to go ahead and vote on B1? We've had discussion.
I don't think we can vote on the timing aspect.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Dr.
If we
Kroll
want
has
to
a chance
table B1 to give Kim an opportunity to talk with Laura to see if we can change that 4 days.
Can do that.
Or can we pass it the way it's presented and come back and review?
Jim,
Yeah.
this is Laura, and I still have a motion on the table from Shelby and a second by Julie. So I don't want you to forget that that's there as well.
Mary Martha, go ahead.
Shelby,
Yes,
my question to you is, Laura emails the packet to you. Do you not get emails from the college on the packet?
I received that Wednesday. Yes, I did.
Okay. Jim, I'd like to go ahead and review all of them before we vote.
That's fine. We can table it. You want to go ahead and have a discussion or questions over any of it?
No, I just have some things I'd like to add, but you have not gone through them yet. We're not on that page yet.
Page 39, please.
Well, Shelby's motion, is to unstrike that area on page 34, where it says any member of the board may ask that any item of special interest be included on the agenda. Shelby wanted to unstrike that. He made a motion. Julie seconded. You need to vote on that, please.
That's right.
And so we can move on.
Have you had discussion on that motion?
We have not. So go ahead and share with us, Mary Martha.
I'm going to vote no. Not that I don't disagree, but I think this is open discussion for all of us to go through this. We need to be using common sense and patience and listen to one another. You know, Shelby, I may agree with it later, but right now, let's just go through this and get Dr. Kroll's explanation, please.
Okay, I was just under the impression when Jim, the chair, first mentioned board action items, we would take them one at a time. I assumed that we would take the bylaws and vote on it, and then the next one and vote on it. That's my impression of how you presented it.
That is
Instead of doing the
correct.
whole ball of wax
Yeah.
at once, because
Yes.
that's,
Right, that is correct.
so we just went through all of that. so
But we
should
have
be
a
able-
motion that's pending that you want to strike, as
Right.
opposed, if you want to withdraw
Just
your
leave- no,
motion,
just leave
we
that
can
like it is
table
and
it.
let's
and
vote and vote it
come
up or
back.
down, let's drive on.
So you're gonna withdraw your motion at this time?
No,
I
he
don't
said
know
he
why I
wants to
need to,
vote on
because
it.
we're
You
getting
want
ready
to
to.
vote on that one at this time?
Striking that on page 34? Yeah.
So the motion on the floor is to, on page 34, is to leave in what's been stricken, what I crossed out. And Shelby's motion is to leave in, any member of the board may ask that any item of special interest be included on the agenda.
I mean, it can still be
So,
turned
so
down.
if you vote in favor of that motion, that means that we'll leave that in. If you vote against it, it'll remain stricken. Okay?
Okay, we can have roll call, unless there's further discussion.
Jim, say that one more time. If you vote yay,
Shelby's motion was to leave in at the very bottom of page 34 that any member of the board may ask that any item of special interest be included on the agenda. That was his motion, that we leave that in. And so if you vote in favor of that, it'll leave that in. If you vote yes, that leaves that statement in. If you vote no, it remains stricken and it won't be part of that.
Okay, got it.
Got it?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So Laura, you can do roll call.
Okay, trustee Good,
No.
trustee Law, trustee
No.
Law,
No for now.
No, it's not gonna
trustee
vote.
Rhodes,
No.
trustee Winslow,
Yes, strike it.
trustee Lechtenberg,
No.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
So there's 4 noes and 2 yeses.
Okay.
So now are we going to go ahead and go through the rest of the policies?
Well,
I think the question becomes, again, do you want to vote on the changes to the bylaw? I mean, Jim said when we started that we would take them individually. So if you want to do that individually, then
prepared to
there
vote
needs to
for
be a
all of-
motion and a second to approve the bylaws as they've been changed. I mean, if you want to take it in the format that Jim presented it.
I think we should do that. Do I have a motion to approve B1, which is the Board of Trustees bylaw?
Question.
Page 33 through 38.
Question.
Sure.
Jim, we haven't gone through all the policies yet.
You're right, we haven't.
We're just going through B1.
B1, Mary Martha.
I know, but why are we stopping there? I mean, can't we go through all these and discuss them as a team and decide as we go along our feelings on such and such?
That's the way it is in the agenda, Mary Martha.
That's just the way that we've got the agenda set up, and they're not all interrelated necessarily. They're all sort of clustered on, different sections of the overall policies that we're reviewing, so that
Okay.
accreditation. So we decided, or I should say, I decided that
Okay.
we would take it up one at a time. So there's a motion pending right now for to approve B1, which is the Board of Trustees bylaws. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can
Any
you-
further discussion?
Who made the motion in the second?
Between 33 and 39?
38.
38.
The motion was made by Doug and seconded by Forrest, Laura.
Thank you.
And my comment on discussion would be, I think we still need to be willing to come back and revisit this next month as to the timing of the board packets.
I agree.
Based
Which
on
we can.
additional
I'm gonna
information that
talk to
Dr. Kroll
Laura
gets.
tomorrow, Julie.
I mean, all this, we don't have hardly any disagreements at all right now. It's just
No.
a couple little changes and la-di-da. Let's drive on.
Correct. Let's move on. Let's take,
Right.
call
Roll
the question.
Yeah. Call for question.
Okay.
I'm still thinking about this. Can you wait just a second? Why are we approving 33 to 38 when Shelby had a question about 35?
That's between, we're looking currently between pages 33 and 38. Page 35 is right in the midst of that.
Right.
We just
I
talked
know,
about
but
this
I
one
thought
minute.
you wanted, I thought you wanted to add business days.
Well, we
And
do.
Well, we did, but nobody,
It's not
you guys already
practical.
said
You
not to
outvoted
worry
us
about
and
it.
you said
and it's-
no.
Right.
so
So
keep
it wasn't
we're
voted
just gonna
on.
keep it 4 days.
Mary Martha, what I've said is that when Laura is back in the office and she and I can talk about
Right, right.
the timeline to get the board books together, we will come back with some information to you
Perfect.
the next time around.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry, guys, this is just a bit confusing for me. So pages 33 to 38 is what we're voting on. Laura, you've called trustee good. The answer is yay.
Thank you. Trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
No.
trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
No.
So 4-2.
Okay. Now we'll go to B2.
And
Starts
that,
on 39.
yep. The Code of Conduct and Responsibilities Policy used to be titled Duties and Responsibilities. And again, you know, looked at lots of other policies to add some bullet points. And so at the very top of 39 there, board delegates authority to the president of the college subject to board approval. And as Bill noted in the criterion, in accordance with the Higher Learning Commission accreditation criterion. Started a statement that said in carrying out the functions as a member of the college board of trustees. Then some additions. Trustees recognize that serving on the board is to commit yourself to achieving the stated college mission and vision with perspective and supporting the community college system in general. These aren't things that I made up. I'm telling you, when I put them in, most of them I kind of copied and pasted from other institutions and had, at least in Kansas, had those presidents.
And if I could ask a quick question before you interrupt, sorry to interrupt you, but page 39 and 40, is this something you've prepared for us? You personally?
I worked on them. Phil has looked at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was Ray Connell involved at all?
You should have his blessing.
I believe that I sent them to, well, he looks at them because he sees the board book and everything.
And Jim, were you also involved? I'm just curious. I've got a lot of questions.
Not a bit.
Okay.
Just, I leave these things to the
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
administrative
I just-
executive and whoever else needs to be involved in college.
Okay.
Trustees devote time, energy, thought, and study to the duties and responsibilities of the elected office so effective and credible service may be rendered to the employees, students, and college stakeholders. Conduct will be guided by integrity, civility, and mutual respect in working with other trustees, college employees, and students. Board members will not support or engage in personal attacks on fellow trustees, college administrators, college employees, or students through direct conversation, in writing, or through social media. Trustees will promote mutual respect among one another and among all college employees and will not use their position to embarrass, intimidate, or threaten employees or students through direct conversation in writing or through social media. Trustees, I guess in the next one, I just changed put KSA instead of Kansas statute. Trustees will not apply for or be considered for employment. Trustees will participate in new member organization or orientation planned by the board, chairperson, and the president. At the very bottom, trustees will base personal voting decisions on all available facts in each situation and abide by and uphold the final majority decision of the board. Trustees understand the decisions and actions by a single member cannot be binding. Top of the next page. Trustees understand the board exercises its powers and duties only in properly called meetings where a majority of the board constitutes a quorum and therefore must conduct relationships with college employees, stakeholders, and the press on the basis of this fact and engage in no private action that will compromise the board. Next one points to the fact that you understand the primary function is to concern yourself with broad questions of policy, establish effective policies, and then delegate the day-to-day operations. trustee questions and or requests for assistance and information from college administrators will be first directed to me, which is what we're doing now. Requests will be evaluated and appropriate college personnel will be engaged as needed. Typically when those requests come in, I send them off to somebody else or get somebody else involved. And then try and provide all that information to the trustees, to everyone. If requests are deemed to potentially create undue time constraints and or workflow disruptions, then I think it needs to come back to the board, the majority of the board, to determine the needed request. Trustees use care and discretion when communicating, including on social media, so as not to convey the perception that your personal opinions, which you're entitled to, and your ideas represent those of Butler Community College and or the college trustees as a whole. You'll follow applicable college policies and procedures and board bylaws and guidelines. You'll adhere to the code of ethics in addition to the code of values and ethics of Kansas community colleges and ACCT standards of good practice. And then the last bullet point is information that was presented to you by Ray a couple of months ago as a suggested change related to confidential information. And so to keep confidential all information of a confidential or sensitive nature provided to the board, including information received during executive session, disclosure of which would be contrary to fiduciary obligations of a board member, compromise attorney-client privilege, or violate any law or court order. All executive session material, discussion, correspondence with legal counsel should remain confidential. And then you shouldn't disclose confidential or sensitive information to any non-board member. And then following just the section on functions, just made one change to add ratify employment of, just to clarify that. So those were the changes suggested to the Code of Conduct and Responsibilities policy.
Okay, I would move to table this till next meeting because of 2 reasons. So.
Do you have a second?
I'd kind of like to talk about it. You can say that again later.
I think they intend on voting on it, and I think that one thing we need to probably consult, probably get a legal opinion.
Well, I'd like to talk about this personally.
I'm sorry, right?
I personally want to talk about this tonight, so I don't want to.
We can have a discussion.
No,
but right
I just
now
don't.
we
I
have
don't
a
want to table
motion
it.
that wants to table it. Do I have a second?
No.
Okay, the
I'll just take it back.
motion fails for a second, so let's move on with our discussion.
Dr. Pearl, can I ask one before?
I have a question.
Sure, Mary Martha.
Forrest is asking a
Yeah.
question first, Mary Martha. Just a
Hold on.
second.
Sorry,
I had my hand up longer than Forrest.
I will defer
But he's here in
I will
person.
defer to Mary Martha.
There you
I'm
go.
not about to cross that.
You have the floor now, Mary Martha.
I love it. On the bottom of page 40, the last pink paragraph, I would like to add in there that if trustees violate this confidential information that was discussed and received in executive session, that we go with the Attorney General's recommendation that we fine the board member or members $500 each.
Wow.
And
This is serious business.
so I want to, I just wrote little notes. And so does that include that it has to, that you have to document somehow that violation of confidential information or validate it somehow?
I think social media has done a great job of it, so I'll leave it at that.
But I don't think we can just leave it to social media to document it. We'd have to have some sort of a process to.
Well, I tell you what, I can't think of anything else that's better than social media right now.
You're gonna get us in trouble, Mary.
Yeah, we're gonna
You,
pay for this.
you guys, if things that we discuss in executive session need to be they need to stay in executive session. If this is not a gossip column that we're running around.
No, that's true. When our lawyer hands us a piece of paper, says you guys can vote on this tonight,
In an executive session.
he didn't want us to vote in executive session at that point. And I think this last paragraph still poorly written. He poorly wrote it the first time. Ray did. You hand that to me, say I can vote on it tonight. At that point, when I vote on it tonight, that's public information. We're publicly voting on it. Yes, I passed that along to the Attorney General. Ray got that back from the Attorney General. Ray's not happy that that went there, but he handed that to us as a board in executive session and asked us to vote on it that evening.
He didn't expect you to vote on it in
He
executive
said
session.
you can vote, no, not during executive session.
No,
He said
yeah.
y'all can vote on this tonight if you want to.
Yeah.
Not during
So
executive
what's
session.
wrong with that?
There's
Well-
nothing wrong, but at that point, I don't consider that attorney-client privilege when he's asked me to vote on this piece of paper in public. That paper is now public information.
Sure, and that's
Because
fine.
we would read it in public
It becomes a
10
public
minutes later.
document, just like this would be.
Yeah.
He was just sharing that with you.
But he asked us, he said we could vote on it that night.
But we agreed that we would not. We'd take it as a
Well, we said we
received
want to
item.
read it first, right?
So I
He's
think
like,
the board
okay.
handled it the way it should have been handled. We-
But I would go to court and argue that before a judge. If you hand me a piece
On,
of paper-
on fining you $500?
No. No.
I'll give you $500, Mary, but I don't
Talk-
think that's
but is
not what we're talking about.
Shelby,
That
is
was
your
not,
issue,
that was not executive privileged information, according to me. That's the only reason I passed that on.
and maybe the clarification is, and I don't know the answer to this question, but I think I understand what you're saying. It was a document that was presented in executive session. So it's
Right.
clearly confidential at that
But
point
he
in
asked
time.
us to vote on it that night.
Does that mean it's not confidential immediately, or does that mean it's not confidential once we decide to vote on it? Clearly, once we vote on it, it's public record.
Right.
I don't know that the confidentiality goes away immediately.
And
If
I'm
I-
sure that might be true, but we have to be very careful.
I've
as
talked to
this
several people about it, and they're in the same boat as you. It's like, yeah, that's a good question.
We have to be
I-
very
That's-
careful that we don't violate that and introduce things that are in executive session that really perhaps shouldn't
But
be
if,
there.
if you look at
Let-
social media, Mary, there's a lot of misinformation that obviously exec session details weren't passed out. It was just a lot of inference and yelling and screaming about stuff that wasn't.
So
You're right. You're right. So what does the public believe?
I can't control what some guy writes in a newspaper because he's angry. That has nothing to do. I didn't share the information, or he would have shared
let,
the information. in
let me
my-
go back to that executive session when
Mhm.
Ray put that in front of you.
Mhm.
That conversation in that executive session was very directly in relationship to the information that was released regarding Educare and those employees losing their job. That information ended up on Facebook on Sunday afternoon, outside of those folks being able to hear in a private conversation. And so his conversation in executive session was about releasing that confidential information. That was what that
But
conversation
his legal
was.
paper
And that-
was,
It had
and-
nothing to
and-
do with Educare, that legal
He-
paper.
He was putting that in front of you for consideration because that information, that confidential information had been
right, he was
released
making
out
an
of
addendum
exec
to our
session.
board book or
He didn't
handbook.
expect you to vote on that in
And-
executive session. at
No, I'm
all.
not, I'm
It's a
in no
policy-
way
it's
saying were
policy
we
change.
going to take a vote of any kind in executive session. That was
Yeah.
not the intention.
Yeah.
We were there and he said, you guys want to vote on this tonight? You can't. I absolutely know he meant not right now,
Yeah.
obviously.
But
You guys
he
want to
was
vote on this
using-
tonight after we close
He
executive
was
session?
using that executive session to focus on the fact that confidential information had been
No, I
released
understand.
from executive session. And this was part of that discussion for, here's a potential solution if you want to consider it, to prevent that information from being released from executive session.
For
So
the record, I
that
don't
was-
think any policy changes should ever be introduced in executive session, especially if they're not related to one of the
And I-
7.
I don't honestly know, but if we go into executive session, technically, should we had to have said, we're going to go discuss Educare? Can we blanket statement like, hey, it's just personnel?
3 reasons. 3 reasons. Am I correct? Attorney privilege, real estate, and what's the third one?
Well, there's more than that.
Is there?
Non-elected personnel. real
Non-elected
estate.
personnel.
Yeah.
But the person I am, if we're dealing with taxpayer funds, the Educare that services 60 kids in El Dorado, 90 parents, 27 teachers, If you want to find me $500 for telling people like, hey, how do we save this program? What input do you all have as taxpayers, as people that use it? I'll take the fine. I'll do it again. If it's something as specific as just saying, hey, we're going to talk about Educare. What can we do to save it? How, I mean,
Shelby, how would you like to find out that you didn't have a job and it was on Facebook? And that's how you found out you weren't employed anymore.
what's worse, a trustee saying, how can I save your job? Or us saying, hey, your job's gone? I don't know what's worse, and I don't understand that.
With no warning.
That reasoning. I think we could have done stuff. We're still here talking about McConnell that loses as much money as Educare. Well, we can't be bothered to talk about McConnell. Let's let it go a couple more years.
With
But
no
Educare, we just kick
disrespect,
them.
Shelby, but we're getting kind of off.
Yeah, we're way
here.
off. Yeah,
I'm
let's
sorry.
get back.
I hate to interrupt you, but we're talking
Mary's
about
got Mary's got a
policy
motion.
here.
Let's yeah.
I understand.
So
No,
Mary
I
Martha,
understand.
give me more details on your penalty that you're proposing.
Well, no, it wasn't a motion, Shelby. I'm
No,
just
it's-
recommending that if you go to the Attorney General's website, they have down there what the fine should be if you're in executive session and information is released. And the maximum fine should be $500. Excuse me?
You can have a recall election. You can fine me $500. And I told you that evening, I brought $500 to that meeting. I'm not intimidated by that. If we want to put it in here, I'm aware of that's the penalty. I'm fully aware of that.
I guess
So
I
if we
just
wanna-
want to be certain what the procedure is to establish guilt, if you will.
Apparently
Right.
just social media.
No,
we
that's
go to-
not
we go
good
to
enough.
court
I
and then
agree.
we find out.
So
and
tell
that's-
me,
I'm
so,
fine with that. I have no qualms about that.
all right.
I'll be happy to go
It
to
would have to
court
be
and take my
legally
action.
determined. Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
All right.
But we get into the point, does the college have to provide me a lawyer? Is that going to cost the college money for us to harass ourselves?
I don't think you can rely on a legal determination because then someone has to institute a legal action to get the determination. I mean, I think it could be a majority vote of the trustees, but then do politics come into play in assessing? I mean, I don't know that that's the best answer either. I mean, here was I think Mary Martha's example is pretty clean cut because there's not much dispute over what was disclosed and who disclosed it.
She wants to
But
add
that
this.
might
We can
not-
tell what
that
was
might not always
disclosed
be
and
the
what we
case.
talked about. There's obviously didn't disclose what we talked about. I talked before the meeting. Hey, there's a meeting coming up talking about Educare. If you care about it, put your ear to the ground, click.
Shelby, I do not want this to ever happen again.
Okay. Well,
That's my whole point.
Talking about these 2 pages yet. So
But from what I understand, Shelby, you have told us more than once, what you shared was ahead of the executive session.
correct.
It did not come from the
My
executive
opinion
session.
too is like, as soon as we got the email from Kim, it's like, hey, I sent you all an email. We need to talk about the public. We need the public involved, public.
Another example.
And then boom, exec session, let's talk about it. And I know, and then here we are. We can't talk about any of it.
Well,
Not
listen
even
to
mention
me.
it. And that's my concern prior
The
to.
point behind my email, again, it's easy to interpret what's written on paper and misinterpret it. The point behind my email was knowing we had said that Lori and Christy were going to meet with those folks on Monday. The point behind my email was if somebody calls you, please don't disclose that information to them. Let us wait until Monday to talk to them. And then you can talk about it after that. That
I
was
think
the
that was on
point behind my
Saturday.
email.
But my initial thing was, we as a board, prior to okaying or not okaying, whatever we did, closing Educare, let's decide. If you look at page 40 at the bottom, since the Board of Trustees is the governing body of the college, its attention necessarily directed to planning, evaluating, and policy making. That's our job. We're the governing board of do we want to do this as a board? Let's talk about it. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's an issue of what is something that the board needs to vote on and consider, and what is it that's left to the administration.
My concern is,
and you obviously, Shelby, and I may agree with you or not disagree, or agree with you or not disagree with that. You know, it may be Educare closing something the board should.
and after we
consider.
talked about it, I may have said we
The
don't
way,
close
that,
it.
the way things ran, because it's not crystal clear anywhere, was that it was something that was left up to the administration and executive. And unfortunately, maybe it shouldn't have been, but there's no clear cut on it. So it is what it is. And quite frankly, the executive session issue, what happened and what was leaked out, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I mean, to me, I don't think it's crystal clear on a policy that these are things that are protected. Hey, everybody don't talk about it, especially for new people on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it's a bad idea to have this in here. I don't know about a fine, but I think that's kind of hard to manage. Maybe you'll disagree with me, but I just kind of said to myself, well, I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I'm right.
Now
maybe
that I
I'm
know,
wrong,
I would
but
still do it. So I
well,
guess
now you know.
I did it with full knowledge, but
Yeah, now
I
you
don't think
know.
I did broke the law. But anyway, what I would say, what I have notes here myself on this one, I think it needs to be more explicit. And what I would say is to strike that and write something along the lines of, trustees will keep confidential all COMA approved and protected information shared during a proper and legal executive session or shared via email. Something along those lines.
But wouldn't that still apply to then the information you disclosed in this case?
If I disclosed anything we talked about during executive session,
Or
if
the
it's
subject-
COMA approved, if we got in there and we're talking about how's the weather today, oh, it's great, and I say Jim said it was cold today,
But I mean,
that's not covered by.
But I
COMA.
guess the issue here was you disclosed what was going to be discussed in executive session before executive session
I
occurred.
didn't discuss personnel. We're going to go talk about, well,
I mean, you defeated the
subject
purpose
is
of having
supposed
the
to be
executive
disclosed.
session. The confidentiality of executive session was defeated by disclosing ahead of time what was going
well,
to be
my
discussed.
purpose of having public discussion was defeated by slapping executive session on it. So I felt
Well,
cornered.
no, I don't think that's not accurate because executive session was meant to inform us of a decision that had already been made. That there was never an option of having a public debate over this. Now,
But
maybe as Jim said, maybe there should have been, but that
Right,
wasn't.
so that's why I
one of
sent
the
out the email
options.
prior to executive session, like, hey, I want to have a public discussion as a board. And then instead of us talking in public as a board,
No, you said you wanted to have a special meeting, is what you said. You wanted to have a special meeting, thought we should have a special meeting.
I may not have used that word,
Again, we're
but
getting
get
off
together.
topic.
Yeah,
We need
we're-
to get through these things. And
Yeah.
I appreciate this is a debate that can go on all day and all night.
Do we
But
want to
the
address
question
Mary's?
is
I have a couple questions.
It's just I want everybody to state their objections to this particular policy, which is B2, and then we can decide what we're going to do from there.
I have a
So
question for
Go
Kim
ahead.
on, just in general, these 2 pages exactly. What is your purpose in crafting or putting together these 2 pages?
Well, the duties and responsibilities already existed. That they were already, I mean, that part was already
Right, but pretty much
part of
all
it.
the
It
red,
looks
the red
different,
word verbiage
Well-
in both these pages very much concern me.
Yes.
I
Oh,
talked with 2 different legal counsels. They both read this. So you pass that, you're getting sued.
Yes.
Well, then,
This-
Johnson
The first
County,
four red
Maricopa-
dots need to be completely stricken. I mean, the very bottom red dot, trustees, base personnel voting on decisions, that's not enforceable. I mean, we can vote however we want to, we're elected officials.
This is a code of conduct. This is a guideline.
If we pass this, it's in violation of KSA 71.201.
I agree.
71. This is,
Why is that? Why is it in violation of it? Help me understand that.
we cannot
Johnson
treat
County.
trustees as employees. We're elected officials to govern the school. You can't treat us like an administrator or
Right.
it's different.
You
You're not
can't be
being
bullied.
treated as administrator. You're being treated as, these are guidelines for trustees. Johnson County.
You know
Maricopa.
what?
This
Hold on
takes
a
so
minute.
much of
I
our
don't wanna hear
power
any more about
as the
Johnson County.
board and hands it off to Dr. Kroll, our employee. It's not her job. Like, us not even being involved in crafting this is egregious.
It's
That's
really
why,
egregious.
you guys, that's why I put it in front of you. That's
know,
why I'm
but-
bringing it to you.
And
This-
now,
I
4 days
understand-
later, we're supposed to.
I
vote on
understand
it.
having this there because of what I did and there's some,
No, it's
you know,
not just
but-
just for your
or to
actions,
prevent it
sir.
in the future,
No,
to
it's
make it
just
more
for
clear
future.
cut. But I think the way this is written opens it up, freedom of speech issues. It's just, this is bad policy, bad bylaw.
Shelby,
mean,
what
let
do
me-
you see there that you disagree with?
It's a massive consolidation of power to a few.
That's, I
First
didn't,
paragraph.
I asked Shelby what he
Requirements
disagreed
of
with.
serving on the board of trustees. It gives us a bunch of this stuff we have to do. We have to commit ourselves to serving the stated college mission and vision and perspective, supporting community college, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
Our
I don't
requirements
disagree,
as
I don't
trustees are-
disagree with that. Go ahead.
Our policy, to be a trustee, we have to be 18 from the district and get elected. And then we're governing, we're we're representatives elected representatives. We're not college employees, and you can't put this stuff on us, and we have to do it or else.
But don't you agree that we have a fiduciary duty to the college by our role as an elected
Which is
trustee?
why we should
And also
oversee
the
that.
taxpayer, because we're 60% taxpayer funded. So yes, fiduciary means working on someone else's behalf with trust. Yes, we're here to work for the college.
Isn't that what
And
most of these, that's how I
these
interpret most
are-
of these.
These aren't that.
No.
I mean,
Well,
that would be
I know
exactly
Julie
what you
doesn't
said,
wanna-
like, hey, we're here for the college's
Ju-
benefit.
Julie didn't want to, want me to mention Johnson County again, but their code of conduct policy of 114.01, first bullet point, to recognize that to serve on the Board of Trustees of Johnson County Community College is to commit oneself to achieving the stated missions of the college with vision and perspective and supporting the community college movement in general. I mean, these have all been,
Is it fair to assume these have all been
Vetted,
the
so to
higher
speak.
learning
You
commission
guys may
to
not
some degree?
see it, but I am
Most of these
fighting
are
so
actually
hard
in-
for our institution right now to not get sued by passing these two pages.
I agree.
let me run him past Ray. I'll run him back past Ray and talk to him. He will provide
Well,
guidance.
it's our turn tonight to vote yes or no on it.
No, we don't have to vote
We can
tonight.
table it. You can
That's what I'm
table it.
saying, or you guys can table it. I'm just warning you, please don't pass this. So I'm not trying to be a jerk or get the college in trouble. I'm trying to
Can
prevent
you
trouble
tell
right
me
now.
what legal counsel you
No.
talked to?
No.
Okay. Well, let's ask him. I
I
just,
mean, why do you respond that aggressively? I mean, that seems like a
Because
reasonable
that's
question.
my personal information.
But if you've got two
I've got
attorneys
this-
that are
I got
telling
this
us we're going to
Saturday
get sued
night.
by it.
I read it, I find this page, it gives me pause.
I understand.
And I gotta do all this busy work. I present it
And
to
money's a
two different
holiday.
people. I present it to a lot more than two different people. Two councils both say, hey, me personally, not being a lawyer, this would be the equivalent of us being the little rascals when we got our clubhouse. And we write, no girls. Cool, we can do whatever we want. But when the girl shows up and says, I want in your clubhouse, and we say no, then you get sued. I think we can put all this in here we want all day long,
I think.
but
Shelby,
any
what your
enforcement of
question
it's gonna
is,
get us in big trouble.
Is this?
Is it
I mean,
legal?
Can we do this? Is it legal to do it?
I don't think it is.
That being said, why don't we table it and let college council take a look at it? Do I have a motion
And-
to table?
So moved.
Yes, second.
Roll call or further discussion? You okay with
No,
that?
I think you should. I think we should.
All right, go ahead, roll call.
Trustee Good,
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow, Trustee Lechtenberg, Trustee Smith,
Yes.
okay,
unanimous.
Okay.
I'll get Ray involved again with it.
And maybe when you get him involved, could we have a defense on all of those items that you added?
I'll cross-reference them with other policies that have been approved by other institutions.
I don't care about other institutions. I
Well, but
care
that would
about-
mean that their legal counsel has looked
Well,
at them
not
as well.
necessarily, because you had not sent this to Ray. So
Julie can't hear you.
Ray saw this, Julie. Ray saw this.
If he, I just would like for him to reference why or why not.
Okay.
It's a problem, or could be a problem.
I can tell you why some of this is, we need to have some of this. I'm going to be honest with you. We've had people call other community colleges and badmouth Dr. Krull, and I don't appreciate it. Now, as a board of trustees, we work together. We don't have to call other colleges. Now let's start working together and work as a team and quit this, calling other colleges, tell them we don't like Dr. Kroll, we don't like this and that. This is getting ridiculous.
Well, I think if you're going to make that accusation, Mary Martha, and I agree that shouldn't be happening, then you need to state the incident, and maybe we need an executive session to do that. But it's never fair for someone to make accusations like that and not name the accuser, or at least give an incident synopsis of some kind. So
I
maybe
can
we need
provide
to
that.
call
I can provide it.
Yeah.
I can provide it if
Executive
you want me to. Fort
Mhm.
Scott Community College. Conversation with the administrative assistant there you called.
I might record all my conversations on my phone automatically. So if I call them, I call a lot of colleges to ask for things like, do you have this online or do you have that? So you're going to have to name the date
I can name it, and I've got notes from it.
If we want
And the
to
lady you talked to.
be a little blunt for just a couple minutes, this is what got us in trouble legally that we just settled, being petty and vindictive after the fact of something, pushing a little harder than we should.
Yep.
Board telling people not to, it happened anyway.
Yep.
Well, we don't necessarily know.
Are you talking about Roger Matthews?
We are.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't want to.
Well, you,
But
you know-
anyway, there's a lot of petty and vindictive stuff that happened back then. And I know we just had
And it seems
the
to continue.
Tacoma thing came down from Kansas and we're all good, nothing, whatever Lee filed was a nothing. So some of this seems like it's like, okay, that was a nothing, and if you do it again, you're gonna get smacked really hard.
I'll run this stuff back past Ray. We'll get some reference for it. Okay?
Dr. Kroll, I think it'd be helpful as well, since you're going to talk to Ray, to ask about Mary Martha's
Oh, I made that
request.
note.
And to what, I'd be curious to know what his recommendation is as to how you would establish
Yeah, how would
violation.
you establish guilt, so to speak,
I'll ask him. I made a note.
so to speak? What's next, Mr. Chairman?
Okay, Mr. Chairman says the next is B3, philosophy of compensation.
This one's already in there. It's
What page are we on? I'm sorry.
43.
Thank you.
42.
This one is already in there. I just added policy to the top and just made some grammatical changes. but
Editorial
otherwise it's
changes.
word for word.
Yeah.
I
Editorial
move
change.
to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say, well, we got to do roll call. Any
Was
further
that,
discussion?
was
No.
that Smith and Law on the motion and approved? Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Are you ready for roll call?
Yes, please.
Laura.
Trustee Good,
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow, Trustee Lechtenberg,
Oh, it's the compensation policy. That's
It's just editorial
grammatical.
changes. There's
Oh,
nothing controversial.
Okay. We think.
thank you. Trustee Smith,
Yay.
okay, unanimous.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to Code of Ethics,
Right,
which is B4, and that starts at page 44.
right. And this one looks a little bit different because when I tried to do track changes and Ray looked at it, he said, this is a mess. It's confusing. So, so what I did was on pages 48 through 50, put the old policy and shows the strike throughs and stuff. Some of this I rearranged and shifted the order so that some of the definitions were up front and things like that. But, and the stuff that's boldface was added for kind of clarification. So you'll see at the top, added part of a sentence, public confidence in the integrity of its board and employees. While the college acknowledges that its leaders may be involved in the affairs of other organizations, it remains crucial to avoid even the appearance. So the boldface is new wording. Under definitions, this conflict of interest definition was a little bit more comprehensive and clearer than our definition of conflict of interest was on page 49 and has a lot of the same wording in it. This just expands that definition a little bit further.
There's some things that I'd like to talk about adding to the pages, just for consideration.
Julie, I can't hear you.
Sorry. There's a few changes on pages 45 through wherever the Code of Ethics expires here. I guess it's 49.
Well, as we get to those, do you want to offer them then? Is that okay?
As long as we go page by page.
Well, that's
yes.
what my plan is. Okay. Defined family member a little bit more clearly. It just added family members defined in the old policy, but just added a little bit of wording here.
I'd like to add to that too. Can I? This point on that page.
Okay.
At your,
What
at
would
your
be your
item.
addition?
I would suggest adding any member of the immediate family.
It's in there. A spouse, parent, sibling, child.
No, it says who reside in the same household. So I would motion that, or I would like to either see that stricken or any member of the immediate family.
And so something like.
So I don't care if they live with them or not.
I guess it
Well-
depends on how you interpret that.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
don't interpret
the
it
last
that way.
comma as separate?
What page are we on now?
44.
44, family member, definition of a family member.
I think I see it as listing the specific items. And in addition to that,
Or, yeah.
any other relative who resides in the same household.
Right. Yeah, I think
It's how, it's where you stop with the comma.
I would say it doesn't matter if they live in the same household or not.
No, the others are automatic.
Spouse,
The others doesn't matter. It's comma or, Julie. And that's sort of a separate. Here's another category.
Spouse, parent, sibling, child, no matter where they reside. And then any other relative because of the comma or.
So there resides
Is
in
that
the
how
same
you read it,
household.
Shelby?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
The residence requirement only modifies the any other relative clause.
Okay, so you're not changing that.
I think it's like you want
It's,
already. Sounds like.
it just the way that it is there. Okay.
So how do we have so many people that are,
But we don't have
Why don't you
family
finish your
members. We
sentence,
don't
Julie?
have family members that are board members.
we have spouses that work for the college.
That's right. But they recuse themselves when they have to. It doesn't mean that because you're a board member, you can't have a spouse that works at the college.
Okay, I just want to note that it's still a conflict of interest for me. But thank you, we can go on.
The following non-exclusive list provides examples of situations. Just kind of an opening statement to clarify that.
Page number, please.
44.
Thank you.
At the very bottom, added wording that just says, for this bullet point, has other direct or indirect dealings, to, again, kind of add a little bit more clarity to that. Top of page 45, 2 bullet points, receive significant salary or other compensation from an entity, individual, or with which or whom the college does business, or then also receives personal gifts or individual discounts from an entity, individual, with which whom the college does business. Those again are, if you read through conflict of interest policies, those oftentimes are noted because they identify gifts or significant salary.
My gist of this whole section is like, if you have a conflict, list it. Don't vote if you're in conflict.
You have to disclose it. That's
Correct.
That's what it's all about. You have
For
to
me
disclose
personally, if McCollum Construction bids a wing of your place, I can't vote on it because I've worked.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so we need to be honest individually, and if we're not, we get called out.
Right.
Or a $500 fine. Just kidding.
That one's
You
1,000.
still got that $500?
Not about groceries.
Somebody, another board member views it as a conflict that they could bring that to attention or anything or not.
You have to disclose it.
Yeah.
You have to disclose it. And that's what you do with disclosure form. Towards the bottom of page 45, added trustees and designated officers. And so the designated officers are listed on the next page. Have an ongoing responsibility to timely update the disclosure form during the year upon the development of a new substantial interest or potential conflict. So if something would change in the middle of the year, you would need to update that form.
And who keeps those conflict of interest? Kim?
Laura does.
Okay, and do the board members have access to those so that they become knowledgeable?
We can talk about them. I think she's
No,
still
I don't
waiting
mean
on
talk
yours.
about them. Do we have access? Can we look at them, review them in a book? I mean, I don't have to have a personal copy, but could I review them so that I know what everyone's
They're in
conflict is?
I think if you were going to look at them, we would want to talk about them as a group, probably. I don't know.
So
I would
the
ask
answer
Ray.
is no.
No, I didn't say
I
no,
pretty much
Julie.
think that is no.
I
'Cause I've
said-
asked for this since January.
And we're still waiting on your conflict of interest, just so everyone knows.
Given it twice.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
It's very convenient.
No, it's not. I've got the trail of emails.
So do I.
On the page, top of page 46, going on, I guess the middle, violations. This was an addition. If we put a resolution of censure in front of you. So this includes that, if you end up passing that policy. If you don't, then we would take this out. Under the scope, this was just a change in title and addition of some other people. The vice president of digital transformation used to be the vice president of information services, I think, or CIO. I added associate vice president for student services, associate vice president for human resources, associate vice president of institutional research, and executive director. Some of those are title changes. So some of these changes are just to add a little bit of clarity, but then to kind of clean up some of the language that was already in our conflict of interest, code of ethics and conflict of interest, and to reformat it a little bit so it's easier to read.
Consistent.
My
Yes.
question on violations, it says, subject to discipline up to and including termination of employment. Can I either read that,
Those are the designated officers that would be terminated,
right, if you're working as a,
one of the administrators.
Right.
So if I violated this, potentially, I could potentially lose my job, or one of the vice presidents, not you guys, because you're not employed, but that's what the termination refers to as the designated officers.
I would want to note that we have to be very, very careful with resolutions of censure. Johnson County, I'll mention Johnson County and how they have totally bullied one member of the board up there, have had a resolution of censure to where she couldn't come to certain meetings, which totally eliminated her power as a trustee.
We're just on B4 right now, Julie.
Pretty much made it miserable. Well, we're on the resolution.
And we're on
We're on
code
the
of
same
ethics.
page, are we not?
We're on code of ethics.
So does that cover everything in there, Dr. Kroll, that you wanted to cover? Because if so, I want to make a motion to approve the code of ethics as presented.
And I think it needs to be with the caveat, again, that if you do something different with that resolution of censure, we would need to change that
Correct.
portion under violation.
So I'd amend my motion to include that.
Dependent, yeah, okay.
Second.
you're gonna have to clarify what you just said, though. I'm not
Yeah.
That that one section under violation would be removed if we don't later on adopt the censure policy.
B6 on the agenda is separate discussion of censure.
Okay.
So if we don't adopt B6, we can't, that would be stricken.
And that's the motion that's been seconded, and we're going to do a roll call.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Laura?
Are we ready for roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, trustee Good,
Yay.
trustee Law,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
I have too many questions to vote yes at this time. I'm sorry.
so is that a no?
That is a no for right now. Like
Trust-
Laura said, I guess we'll have another opportunity to revisit.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
trustee Smith,
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that yes?
Yes.
Thank you. So that's 5-1.
See, I don't understand why that even was put in there.
Dr. Kroll, I have a question.
Well, maybe I got them out of order. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, go ahead.
Page 50, ineligibility for employment. No member of the Board of Trustees of a community college shall be an employee of the community college. Does that mean other than Butler? Or does that include all community colleges?
No, that just means that you can't be employed by the college where you're the trustee.
With a trustee. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the end of the old policy, but that's still it's in the new one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Professional development.
And I want to add one quick
Professional
thing
development.
before we get past this one. I was just explaining to Forrest earlier, because we go back to fiduciary back and forth, but on 1 and 1B, fiduciary responsibilities, members of the board and designated college officers serve the public trust and have a clear obligation to fill their responsibilities in a manner consistent with this fact. All decision of the board and recommendations made by these officers are to be made solely on the basis of a desire to promote the best interests of the institution and the public good. The college's integrity must be protected and advanced at all times. So we're both, I think, probably about the same thing. I just lean more towards the public while still wanting to do the college.
And I would like to mention all of the officers that this would affect that work for the college, not only the board of trustees, but up here it says code of ethics for the board of trustees and certain institutional officers. And I would like those names to be disclosed in here.
They are.
They are.
They are.
That was
Under
On
scope.
page
That was page
46,
46. Sorry, I had to highlight.
towards the bottom where it says scope.
So you don't want to disclose them separately?
They're part of the policy.
They're part of the policy.
Yeah, they're all there.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure they're included.
Okay, professional
There.
development policy. Kim, you want to speak to that real
Yeah,
quick?
this was just the new one, again, that we put forth, again, kind of based on Higher Learning Commission expectations that you grow and learn. And again, it doesn't have to be national meetings or travel necessarily. There are lots of opportunities for professional development, but those travel expenses and other expenses that would be reasonably incurred would be covered under reimbursed under our travel and payment policy. So it, just states again what we had under bylaws, I think.
So I move we
So it's a new
adopt
policy.
the professional development policy as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, if we could discuss real quick, my brother's in the Army and he's got TDY all the time. Hey, I'm going to Hawaii. I'm going to Florida. Come on
No,
down.
you
You stay in
can't
our hotel.
go.
I know. I just
Is
want to
that
make sure
what
as a
you're
college,
asking?
our training is like we're training in Vegas for 8 hours a day.
Well,
And then bring our spouses, because that
we don't
adds
pay
up
for
fast
spouses,
for.
you could go to a conference down there if you wanted to, but you have to report out when you get back the sessions that you went to and all the information that you learned.
Yeah.
So I don't think we would support a trip to Costa Rica or Aruba or any place like
Oh,
that.
come
But-
on.
I mean, some of that can err on
Could be the
extra
only
expenses
place
to
that
get
they
some
have
quote
that.
unquote training. It's a little bit of a perk vacation for the people that work.
Okay, let's move forward. Laura, you're in charge now.
Trustee Good,
What was the motion?
Just say
Oh,
yes.
Professional development policy? Yay.
yes.
Motion to go to
Trustee, Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
So unanimous.
Okay,
Okay.
let's move on to B6, resolution of census.
This was again a new one. More and more colleges are including these kinds of things. And so you can read it. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, the Board of Trustees may, after investigation and upon adoption of written findings of fact, adopt by majority vote a resolution of censure with respect to any trustee who violates the provisions of the board's code of conduct and responsibilities or code of ethics.
I would think we need to talk about that whenever we get ready to response.
And I couldn't, looking through Robert's rules, elected officials versus just like some of the other people on the boards that it talks about is a little murky on what I was trying to figure out in the last couple of days. I wouldn't mind tabling that, discuss with the other stuff.
Agreed.
When I look at it,
He's looking at other stuff. I mean, I've seen other governmental entities that have approved censure motions or resolutions against board members. So I don't know that there's much doubt that we can do it. But
I think you can.
if
I've seen
others
it
are
too.
concerned and Ray's going to look at the other issues, I
Yeah.
don't.
Since we're looking at the code of conduct anyway.
I couldn't find out.
You have a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Laura?
Okay, Trustee Good,
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
So unanimous.
Okay,
Okay.
just to make sure we're all on the same page, B4 and B6 are tabled for further review by
No,
Ray.
B2, isn't it?
Is it B2?
Are we at a Chinese restaurant right now?
Oh, I'm sorry, B2.
You sunk my battleship. B2 or bingo. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
B2 and B6.
B6.
Okay, those are what I have.
Bingo.
So Dr. Kroll, can I just confirm that then for the motion for the last one with since the censure was not approved, we will just remove that from that policy at this time and keep the rest of the policy?
No, we voted to table it. We didn't take action.
We voted to table that last one, Laura, but Doug's motion was that we may have to go back if the resolution of censure doesn't get passed at some point in time. We'll have to go back and revise that other policy.
That one paragraph.
That includes
So-
that language. So
So
we'll
for
leave
the
it-
minutes, for the minutes for this meeting, we'll just leave it in there with the caveat that it still could be removed.
Right.
True.
I think we just put in parentheses that it'll be revisited based on further discussion.
Or
with
contingent upon adoption of B6
Yeah.
Okay.
or rejection of B6.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll figure out the right wording tomorrow, okay?
All right. Okay, next item, consent agenda. Do I have a motion? to
You
approve?
so do have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Anything in there you want to talk about?
Second. I don't.
No discussion?
Was that law and roads
Yes.
for the motion? Thank you.
Yes.
Where is the bid agreement requiring cyber? Is that contracts and agreement or is that in the,
It's on page 69.
is that part of the consent agreement?
Yes.
Okay, then I want to discuss that.
I have a note on mine, just, my impression was, is there some way we raise our cyber fees a little bit next year or some sort to?
They're going back to revisit all of the fee structure, the technology fee structure. There's a group that's doing that, and I told them that I really wanted to have something kind of finalized by Thanksgiving time, so when we bring tuition and fees forward in February for discussion and March for approval, that'll all be done. But technology is an increasing cost, and so we've got to figure out how to support it and build some additional funding to move forward with it. So you're right on target.
Hey, Bill.
I think I have some questions about this. Was there a request for proposal included that you sent out, Bill, to these companies that put in a bid to us?
Was there, yes, we sent out a request for proposal. I'm sorry.
Was there a request for proposal? In other words, whatever you sent out to these vendors that they acted a bid upon. Did you send something out to them?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We went to RFP to all those vendors.
Was that included in our board packet or just the summary?
I don't normally include RFPs. We include the responses. So no, I did not, Trustee Winslow, I did not include the RFP itself. We don't normally do that.
I wouldn't mind seeing those when it comes to anything to do with IT particularly.
Okay.
Anyway, if I'd have allowed direct contact with you, I probably would have asked for that, but given the short time we had to review all this.
You had an opportunity to move this off the consent agenda at the start of the meeting if you wanted to further discuss it.
So let's call the question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, call the question, no further discussion.
Trustee Good?
No further discussion?
Just say yes.
At all?
Because you didn't remove anything from the consent agenda.
I didn't have to remove it. I just wanted to discuss it and you moved, but we were discussing and I had some questions.
You understand?
Yay.
No, apparently not. I understood that it included some things that I had a question over, and I did not have the opportunity to ask at any other time.
You had the opportunity to
Continue,
remove
Laura.
anything from the consent agenda.
Trustee Law?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Winslow?
No.
Trustee Lechtenberg?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
I guess. Yeah. Yes.
So 5-1.
Okay, supplemental
Bill.
information.
Okay, let me make a public note then on if I could, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add, in reviewing these bids, I noticed that an employee that we did not get a resignation for in the back of the folder is actually the tandem person as a new startup, and I would not approve that. So I'm just saying that's why I didn't approve the consent agenda. I just did not think I had enough details to make that decision, and I did not have the ability to ask questions or the time to ask the questions I needed. I might have supported that if I could have found out more information or had more time. But I'm very anal about looking through this entire booklet, and I did not have what I needed. And it looked like to me that we were getting rid of an employee, or he was resigning to start his own company, and then we were rehiring him through Tandem, because it's one and the same. Mr. Manuel.
I didn't catch that.
Well, Bill can provide additional explanation if he needs to, but.
No, we can't do that. We have to go
Well,
through
we
you.
could ask.
He's right here.
Do you have a response to that,
Doesn't
Mr.
matter,
Young?
you've already approved it.
Or
Well, you
At
want
least
your
we know about
question
it.
answered, he's here.
Do you need me to talk? I'm happy to talk.
Sure.
So I went to RFP in anticipation that our CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer, was going to be resigning or potentially leaving that position. Our team, so me and Amy Kirshner, who's our vendor relations manager, she's our contracts person. We created an RFP independent of any of our Office of Information Security to potentially backfill those positions, to see what that bid would come in like. Now, in doing so, we added some services that we're not currently able to provide through our Office of Information Security. For example, our PCI compliance stuff is required under federal compliance to be taken care of via a third party. That you can't have your compliance tests and stuff done internally. So we added those pieces into the RFP. We sent those RFPs to companies that operated in that space, and A, and B to companies that requested to be included in that RFP. We got the responses back that you've seen. Tandem Cyber Operations had been a startup program or a startup company that Tevin Manuel, who was our CISO, was involved in, that has also created arrangements or agreements with in the higher education space. So with our Kane Consortium partners, so we've got our Kansas, Nebraska Community College and four-year institution consortium that we've been able to leverage over the years to save the college money and contracts, and also through KCCIT, which is Kansas Community College Information Technology Group. And so we created the RFP independent of our Office of Information Security, so that they could reply, so that there's somebody talking.
I was supposed to go get them. Oh,
Laura, you need to mute, I think.
Yes, so. Okay.
Let me mute Laura real quick. We did that independent of them, because I was aware that because of our negotiations within the Kane Consortium, the Tandem would potentially reply to it. So, I mean, I'm any time information is requested from me through Dr. Kroll's office, I'm happy to provide a response to that information, Julian. I'm always happy to talk about this. But that's kind of the genesis of how this came about.
So is
Now after the resignation, after the official resignation came in, we did reach back out to those that responded to the RFP and asked for updated pricing to make sure that we were current with everything, and that everything was, because it's important to me, as it's always important to me, for the Board of Trustees and for anyone out there, that I'm transparent with everyone as to what's going on. And so we reached out for updated pricing and updated information from all of those respondents, and that's what you guys have been provided with tonight.
Do we have a resignation?
So you're saying he was an employee, but now he's not? And
Yeah,
he's got the best price around, and that's why he picked.
He does have the best price around, and the only one that was able to
do all.
Well, that's not true. There was another company that was able to meet all of our expectations, but they were more than twice the price. So the other lower priced company couldn't do all the things that we needed them to do in the RFP.
Thank you.
Julie asked a question why we didn't have his resignation on the agenda. The only time you see personnel things on the agenda are retirements typically, or if I would resign or something like that, you would see mine. Everybody else is an employee at will in Kansas. We don't have contracts with them per se. We have employment agreements, but they're not contracts, and so you don't see them on the agenda for resignations. That's why
So to rephrase, Mr. Manuel, is leaving the university or leaving the college to do his startup, which is Tandem. And he will be getting the contract for 172,000, whatever, to provide not only his original position with the college, but additional.
Yeah, like four additional positions. So he'll be providing legal, cybersecurity legal advice in conjunction with our current legal counsel. That's part of the corporate agreement. Information security analysis. So the operational side, so both operations and administration have an Office of Information Security. So it's really the equivalent of about 4 positions when you include your PCI DSS, the QSA piece of that, which is your payment card industry data security standards that are set by the government that we have to abide by. We currently outsource that to a whole nother third-party company, and that's going to be rolled into this new contract so that we can save that money on the back end.
Great, well, thank you, Bill. Is there anything you need to talk about supplemental information?
Forgot about that.
Thank you all.
I don't think so. The one thing I would note, the plan is now finally to meet in Andover in October. And we'll do a tour of the building. We'll get all those details to you. We'll do a tour of the building ahead of time and then meet in Andover in the 5,000 building.
Take another picture of it.
Also, Dr. Kroll, we have the scheduled work session next Tuesday from 5 to 7.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The work session. We'll talk about the strategic plan. And if you're interested again in the ACCT Leadership Congress, let me know that in the next day or two so we can get registered for that.
But it's held during the day, isn't it?
It is. The sessions are during the day. And so that conflicts, I know, for a lot of you, but you know, if you're, the other thing is, even if like if I register as an individual, I have access afterwards then to I think the live stream sessions, stuff like that. And so I think I can probably post those for you to see. Have to check and see.
At a more convenient time, perhaps.
Yeah. 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock or something like that, rather than 1:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, do you have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Third.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Lance.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Trustee Good,
Yay.
Trustee Law,
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes,
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Winslow.
No, I want to be here all night.
Okay, Trustee Lechtenberg,
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
I envy Mary Martha. You're probably wearing your pajamas right now and you're just gonna go right into bed.
I am still at work in my office.
Sure, like Bill, and it's blinking behind
Better
you.
internet there, right?
I'm in Garden City, Kansas right now.
Yes.
Lucky you.
I know, but I really wish I was there with you guys. I will be next week. Thank you so much for missing me, Shelby.
I missed you too.
Oh,
I
let's
missed
see.
you too.
Was that my dub?
You're my
You and I get into too much trouble together.